Good evening and welcome to the Boynton Beach Community Redevelopment Agency's meeting tonight, Tuesday, February 9th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. Would everyone please rise for an invocation of Lift Every Voice and Sing. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising of our baby.
Let us march on till victory is won.
Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope born
has
with a steady
beat,
have not weary
beat,
come to the place for which our Father have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, those who has brought far away, who has by thy light led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray. Our feet stray from the places, our God, where we will meet thee, lest our hearts drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever sing. True to our God, true to our native land. Thank you so much. Now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Stephen B. Grant.
Present.
Vice Chair Ty Penserga.
Present.
Board Member Justin Katz.
Here.
Board Member Woodrow Hay.
Present.
Board Member Christina Romulus.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda approval. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve as stated?
Motion
Yes.
to approve.
Second with discussion real quick.
Yep.
I'd just like to, with the consent of the committee board, add to future agenda items, just a broad discussion about tax increment financing. I've been having some talks with CRA staff and doing some research and just looking for a discussion about the future of tax increment financing and potentially discussing some ideas about how to kind of evolve and innovate some of our older practices. So just a discussion item for future agenda.
Okay.
No problem.
Yes, sir. Yep. So may I have a motion to approve as amended with the new future agenda item?
We'll move as amended.
Second.
Thank you. I have a first and second, and all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. First off, Tara, legal. Approval of the restrictive covenant for phase 2 of the Seabourn Cove project.
Yes, thank you. This has come before us at the request of the new owner of the Seabourn Cove project that was subject to 2 separate DIFA agreements that were entered into in 2012. Those agreements were previously amended and assigned to the previous, I should say, owner, Seabourn Cove Holdings LLC. Actually, sorry, I got that. There's too many coves here. The Hart Seabourn Cove LLC was the first party to whom they were assigned. That party, Hart Seabourn Cove LLC, in January of this year, purchased the properties and transferred the DIFAs to Seabourn Cove Holdings LLC. As part of that transaction, we as staff were notified that the restrictive covenant that was required to be recorded for phase 3 of the project had not been recorded. As part of the agreement, it provides that the restrictive covenant, before being recorded, be approved by the CRA. By virtue of the fact that the CRA cannot act without the board acting, it is coming before you tonight for your approval. The agreement is very specific on the level of discretion you have. It says the restrictive covenant shall be approved by the CRA, which shall not be unreasonably withheld, delayed, or conditioned. I have reviewed the draft restrictive covenant that is a part of your agenda backup. It meets the requirements of the agreement, and therefore I recommend that you approve it so that it can be recorded by the owners as required by the agreement.
Tara, would you give us a summary of what the restrictive covenant is and what it is not?
Sure. The restrictive covenant, as part of the tax increment financing that was awarded as part of the DIFA agreements, there were certain green building requirements required for the projects, and the restrictive covenant sets forth requirements regarding those items and make sure that future owners are aware of how to use those items and to make sure that it's functioning and understood by all the owners of the project. So it's basically letting everybody understand that there are these terms. They may require certain actions by the homeowners, and that is what they do. I can be more specific if you'd like me to.
Yeah, well, my question is that, are you saying that the CRA has the ability to make sure that the new owners are complying with the restrictive, after we agree to this restrictive covenant, we can, I guess, examine to make sure that the new owners are following through with the restrictive covenant?
Yes, and really it is a notification to the purchasers of the individual unit. It lets them know that there's a certificate that the project has been certified as National Green Building Standard. It requires a manual and project manual and resident guide to be provided to the residents. It requires systems auditing. It can require the individual residents to allow people to come into their property to make sure that the building is functioning the way that it was intended under the standards. And it automatically terminates upon the termination of the DIFA.
And how much time left on the DIFA?
I'm going to look at Mike for that. You're on mute, Mike.
We're on year 8 and 7 of a 10-year. So we have 2 years left on phase 1 and 3 years left on phase 2.
All right. So, I'd like, if there's no other objection, I'll request a motion for approval.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
And seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. In addition, Michael, can you make sure that, give us a report to make sure that the new owners are following through with the restrictive covenant?
Yes, sir. We'll know that when they, if and when they submit for their their annual TERFA payment. All of the obligations that the current or previous owner had to submit for that payment will be required of the new one. So yes, sir, it will come before you for approval.
Okay, and Tara, make sure that they know the deadline to submit for their DIFA.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And Tara, anything new from Tallahassee?
Muted. There we go. Sorry. Nothing new to report. Everybody's committee weeks have begun. There is no new bills that we've been made aware of that address CRAs. That's not to say there won't be. We do expect to see legislation addressing virtual meetings, sunshine rules governing virtual meetings. So I'll keep you posted on that as well, to the extent that obviously affects us.
Thank you. Moving on to informational items and disclosures by board members and CRA staff. Commissioner, Board Member Katz, would you like to begin?
Yes, I spoke to Bonnie Miskell representing Davey Camalier on his property on Federal and Boynton Beach Boulevard, and that is all.
All right.
Thank you.
Board Member Hay?
Oh, no disclosures at this time.
All right. Board Member Romulus?
Mayor, I also spoke with Bonnie Miskell regarding the property on Federal. That is all.
And Vice Chair Pensurga?
Thank you, Chair. I spoke to Ms. Miskell as well regarding the same property, 15D on the agenda.
And for myself, I spoke with Bonnie Miskell today, and I spoke with Colin Groff as well. And, you know, I know that he was having talks with our CRA director, and so I want to know if you can give us an update of what the works was that he had or the city had with the CRA of any future involvements. Because specifically any sort of parking garages of a joint venture between the city and the CRA.
We had none, board chair and board members. Mr. Groff and I had no discussions about particulars on any type of a joint garage or anything of the sort.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it. And we'll fast forward to anything from the CRA Advisory Board.
Yes, board chair. Did you want to do public comment? Oh, that's comment log, sorry. Yes, so we have the minutes of the CRA Advisory Board, and we also have a request from the CRA Advisory Board on their pending assignment, if you'd like me to.
No, I'm sorry, yeah, I just skipped over public comments because and my apologies. So
Oh, it's okay.
We will open up now. Alan, if you could, oh, Alan, I'm sorry, I forgot to have your introduction.
Hi, Board Chair Grant, this is Alan. The options for the public to ask questions and raise hands are available to the public. And I am looking, I don't see any at the moment.
Okay. No, I'm sorry, the beginning introduction as well.
Right, that's okay. I don't know if you want me to do that now or if you want to move on. I'll leave that to you, of course.
I think it needs to be part of the record, and I do apologize for going through informational items before calling on you.
Okay, so thank you. I'll go ahead and do my little script. Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and I'll be providing assistance during today's meeting. Before we start, although we have started, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items so that the public audience knows how to participate. Your microphones have been muted to reduce background noise during this public meeting. There will be specific times during this meeting when the following options will be enabled to allow members of the public to participate. The first way is by typing their question into the questions section at the bottom of the GoToWebinar interface. Those items will be read into the record by a meeting organizer at the appropriate time. The second way is by clicking on the raise hand option. A meeting organizer will announce the speaker and unmute their audio at which time the speaker should state their name for the record. Before speaking, please take steps to minimize any sources of background noise and speak clearly into your device during your allotted time. I will now turn control back over to Board Chair Stephen Grant, who will be continuing to preside over today's meeting.
Thank you, Alan. And so now we'll open up to public comments. Individual speakers will be limited to 3-minute presentations. Please state your name and address for the record before you begin. So I do see we have a member in the audience here, if you'd like to begin.
Camera?
There's a camera there.
Okay, great. Oh, my microphone's on. Good evening, board members. My name is Tim Collins. Current business is at 1022 North Federal Highway, the Fish Depot Seafood Market. Each of you should have received an email to me within the last week regarding the ABC equipment rental building, which I understand that there was a problem and that it did not close this past week. We are looking at that space that the city has, looking to negotiate a rent for that location. You know, we know it's a temporary position, but a place to move our fish market. You know, we're at crunch time. We have till the end of the month to move. And when I found out that the closing didn't happen, my mind immediately went to what are our alternatives? And what I would like to request is to negotiate, you know, there are ways to negotiate a deal in and around a transaction in process. And I'd like to see if it's possible for us to enter into a situation like that, where the seller and the buyer all agree that the new tenant will move forward. Our first, last, and security, and any rents moving forward could be put in your escrow account with your closing attorney, so that we can get going as fast as possible. We have until the end of the month to move. I've identified a couple other locations. Unfortunately, neither of them are in Boynton Beach right now, and I'm not interested in moving out of the city. We have a very strong clientele base here. We want to stay in the city. We want to work with the city and continue to work with the city and keep moving forward. I don't know if you have any questions, or is there any comments that I can address as well, or is that part of this process or not?
No, this process is just basically your ability to inform us of any sort of issues that you would like to discuss about. Michael, I don't know if you received a letter of intent.
It was actually a letter seeking information, letting you know that I wanted to look at a lease negotiation once you closed, which should have been, I believe, at the beginning of this month, the end of last month, which should have been about 8 or 9 days ago.
Okay.
And this is the first meeting since that should have taken place, so that's why I'm here to speak. And I don't know that I could have entered a letter of intent on a property that you don't own yet.
I don't think so. The way I see it before is that I don't necessarily know what we can do in the meantime, in the sense that we don't own the property, so it'd be subject to the current property owner, and then subject to this board to approve any sort of temporary lease.
Okay.
I'll ask the board if they're interested in providing a temporary lease. I know that during the conversations of past meetings, the board has been wanted to work with you to stay in the CRA district. And so we could have a conversation, but it would need to have a motion by the board to have that as a topic of tonight's discussion under new business.
Okay. Yes. And again, I'd be willing to work it out with both parties in the transaction, however it works. I have a lawyer on retainer that's reviewing other leases right now for me, and I could move very quickly.
The issue that I have is that any sort of lease would probably have to be approved next month.
And that's beyond when I'm supposed to turn the keys over on the 28th. Is there a way we could maybe enter into something to where we could approve it at the commission meeting next week?
No, I would highly doubt it. Our attorney's shaking their head, and the way that legal would work is that we would have to have a special meeting just for this lease in order to approve it. We can't approve a hypothetical lease.
Okay. No, I understand not approving a hypothetical lease. You know, I would need to see your lease form that you standardly use anyway, but.
We don't have a standard lease.
Okay, would it be up to me to provide one to you, or how would that work out? In the normal circumstances with the city, with both leasing a city property?
So the aspect of it is right now, I would say that the board has to want to have this discussion at tonight's meeting
Okay,
before we have answer any further questions.
okay.
And so I'll open it up to the board. If there's silence, that means they don't want to discuss it at tonight's meeting.
Okay, I understand that.
Chair.
And then,
Yes, Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chair. I am interested in having this conversation. I want to reiterate my support for Mr. Collins and the Fish Depot. If there's anything we can do to keep him in our city, I'm in favor of that. But as you mentioned, Chair, I'm not sure what that is, what can be done legally since we don't own the property yet. But if there's interest to have an exploratory discussion to go and find out what our options are, I'm in favor of that.
So would you like to make a motion to amend the agenda for 16A for new business? Yes, Board Member Hood.
Motion to amend the agenda to add 16A discussion for Mr. Collins.
Yes.
I would second that with discussion.
Yes.
I'm all for doing whatever we can for Mr. Collins to remain in Boynton. I'm not sure it's feasible, but it's a long shot, and whatever we can do to assist Mr. Collins, I'm all for it. So I would like to have that discussion to see and explore.
All right. Thank you. And so we have a first and a second to add the new item under new business. Mr. Collins, you will have to wait for the entire meeting.
okay.
And seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
So
So we'll wait to the end of the agenda.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And so do we have anyone who has a question or raise their hands? Seeing none? Yes.
Oh, I apologize. This is Alan again. I do not see any hands raised or questions that are currently in the queue.
I actually see two people with their hand raised. It's John O'Hara. Mr. O'Hara, your microphone is unmuted.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Grant. I am a member of the Downtown Business Coalition.
Yes.
And we were told basically to attend this meeting in regards to the property located at 115 Federal and what we would like to see there in terms of, I understand it is a push for workforce housing, but I think myself and a lot of the other Downtown Business Coalition members would like to have an alternate discussion regarding possibly a boutique hotel, which would bring enormous number of jobs to downtown, but also offer possibly seasonal visitors to frequent the local business on Ocean Avenue in the surrounding vicinity. So if there's any discussion to be had on that particular property, the 115 Federal, we'd like to offer our input about alternative options.
We have that item under 15E, old business.
Okay.
Where the CRA is conducting a survey so that we get your input.
Okay.
And so I'll ask if the board wants to move up that item. Otherwise, you'll have to wait.
I can wait till yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And can I have your address for the record?
Yes, I'm a resident of West Point, actually, at 10960 Stafford Circle, Point Beach.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And now I see Lois Smith. Your microphone is unmuted. Would you please?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. To the board, I'm not sure whether this is the appropriate place to bring up a question about. There were on 120 near 122 Northwest 8th Avenue. There were metal rods put on the electrical poles near the homes that are in the Breeze west side. And I'm not sure whether, CRA is the producer of the metal rods placed on the poles, but what I'm concerned about is, does it have any effects, that will happen to the residents in the area, like any after effects, based on whatever is going on with the metal rods being put on the electrical pole. That's one issue a question that I wanted to address. The second one is, I've been, here a few times requesting that FP&L do service where they are removing the overgrowth on the electrical wires that feed into the homes. And it's sort of as if we're at a standstill with that. That's just the second question I have. And the third one, I received my utility bill today. And last month, I was very shocked that it was as high as it went. And then I received the one today to kind of compare, or have something to look at. And the bill today is less, but the way the meter was read is as if the meter was read higher on today's bill, which is less than what it was last month, which the overcharge or higher charge was close to $30+. And when you're on a limited COVID-19 situation income, that is a big jump, for residences, within the area of the heart of Boynton. So if anyone would, give me some kind of answer, to those issues, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Smith. And can I get your address for the record?
122 Northwest 8th Avenue, Boynton.
All right. Thank you. In regards to your first question of the polls, I would have to ask you to see if, when it is light again, if you're able to take a picture and send that to us. The city has a new app that is supposed to make it easier for you to report these types of questions and issues. If you
Okay.
I don't have an answer for you, and that's more of a City of Boynton Beach FPL question. As for the second one, I'd ask you to do the same thing, and it is also a City of Boynton Beach and an FPL question. I know that after you spoke, I drove up Northwest First Street, and there was so much overgrowth that the street lights weren't working because the trees were blocking everything.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, has that gotten better?
Well, I still have the same issue where it has never been addressed. The question that I posed several months ago now.
Is that the FPL making sure that the electrical lines are free from landscape?
They never addressed that. So
All
I'm
right.
wondering.
So yeah,
They basically said that they were in a meeting trying to decide what, they, after I called them several times, but nothing has been done.
Okay. So if you send the pictures, that would help. And for your third question, trying to remember what it was.
The utility bills, that is a
That's all.
discrepancy.
That would be a City of Boynton Beach, and you would have to call the utility department and ask for an explanation.
Board Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to address Lois's question on the Florida Power and Light cutting the limbs down. I did see them on this past Thursday. They were on Northwest, what is that, 4th Street and also 3rd Street. And I even saw them in the back of my house here diagonally. So they are cutting some of the limbs down. I don't know whether it's just a shortage of manpower, but they are doing that. And I guess it's a matter of time before they get to as many trees as they can. So I can say that I did see them in the area and they were cutting down limbs. My only concern was, and I didn't go back to talk with them, they just seem to spend a lot of time. And I guess it's a big job to cut limbs down and move them away. But I can say that they are doing it. Maybe we need to see if they can expedite it or add some additional manpower. I don't know, but that's a plot of power and light situation. But I have seen them in the neighborhood.
Thank you, Board
Well,
Member Hay.
I'm not questioning that they're being seen doing other areas. However, my conversations with them were they were uh, making meetings to rectify the situation, and they were giving me, this is going on for like several months now, like six plus months, and every time I'm calling about it, which I'm exhausted now about calling, and not getting anything done. They are saying each time that they're working on it or doing something to remedy it, but not getting to it. So that's the issue that I have brought forth, that it is time that is really of the essence. It's like it's a wearing you down and not really getting to what the questions are or the issues that are before them. So I'm very disappointed, that I've been kind of misled, whatever you want to call it, that something will be done. And this is our lives, that are at stake when it rains really hard or the lightning flashes. You kind of wonder, will anything catch on fire and, you know, demolish the residences in the area? I don't know. I mean, I'm just bringing the issue before you again. Hopefully this time something will
Thank you.
happen. Thank you.
And is there anyone else that would like to speak on public comments? Hand raised or questions? And I'm not seeing any. Alan, do you see any?
Chair Grant, this is Alan. I do not see any hands raised or questions in the queue.
All right. Then we'll move on to the CRA Advisory Board. We have the minutes. Michael, did the CRA Advisory Board make any comments on their assignment?
Yes, Board Chair. They provided you with a request under your pending assignment, which was review of the commercial properties within the Boynton Beach Boulevard corridor. They have asked again for further clarification on what the CRA board is expecting as a report so that they can close out the item. I've done my best to explain the various ways they could report back to you, but
Michael,
I think
they have three options. Is that they say, hey, this is something that we should try to land bank or buy. This is something that may be something in the future, or this is something that does not fit the CRA's mission. So those are the three options. And I believe, because it is under the Robert's Rules of Procedures, someone would make a motion, it would be seconded, and then there would be a vote.
That would, those three options would apply to whatever property is currently for sale, correct?
Yeah, for commercial or industrial, and if they want to give us a reason why they voted the way they did, that'd be excellent.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
All right. Do I have a second in regards to the direction for the CRA Advisory Board?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Moving forward with consent agenda, I'd like to pull items C and D. For item C, approval of second amendment to the Granicus LLC agreement for website design, build, and maintenance services. The fact is when I go to catchboynton.com, it doesn't automatically send me to boyntonbeachcra.com, and I'd like to get that fixed. But you know, I'm looking forward to working with them for this upcoming year and getting out any kinks to the new website, boyntonbeachcra.com. So with that being said, may I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second. Second.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. For the consideration of the revised interlocal agreement with the purchase and sale agreement with the City of Boynton Beach for Historic Women's Club of Boynton Beach, this board had a second agreement with the Boynton Women's Club, and I'd like to make sure that the city honors that agreement that we had with the Boynton Women's Club to be able to use the property. In addition, I'd also want to make sure that this body this organization has the ability to use it as well, especially because we're giving them the building plus $750,000 over the next 3 years, that they don't come back to charge us to use it.
Yes, Board Chair, this is Twee Shutt for the record.
Yes.
The ILA does require that previous and all the other, rental agreements as of the date of the land transfer will be honored by the city. Obviously, the city will have to look at future rental agreements as it needs. And if the board wants to put any other additional criteria for consideration, we can do that. It'll probably have to go back to the commission again for approval of any changes.
And so is there an agreement with the Boynton Women's Club?
Yes, so I'm trying to look for that paragraph in your supportive document right now, but we
Okay.
did put it that the city shall honor all the bookings and all the agreements at the time that they take possession of the property.
Okay. And is there any other organization such as the Boynton Beach Garden Club?
No, we never had that that request from the Garden Club or the Historical Society.
Okay. And so, Twee, you stated that the Boynton Women's Club's agreement with the CRA will be included into the interlocal agreement? Is included.
It's by reference that actually everything that we've booked to the time that we turn over the land will be honored by the city.
All right. And if there's any discrepancy, the city will have to agree to any new agreement with the Boynton Women's Club.
Yes.
Okay. With that being said, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda?
So moved.
So move.
I have a motion by Vice Chair, second by Board Member Hay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Moving forward to CRA projects in progress, announcement of website redesign for Boynton Beach, CRA.com. Someone's microphone need to be unmuted.
Good evening, CRA board. We are just switching over screen share.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, CRA board. Bonnie Nicklin, Grants and Project Manager. On April 13th, 2020, the CRA entered into a contract agreement with Granicus LLC to design and build a new website for the agency. Over the past 9 months, CRA staff and the Granicus team have been working on developing and creating an inclusive, informative, and visually appealing website. Without further ado, we would like to highlight some of these features on our new website. To begin, the new website has been rebranded as BoyntonBeachCRA.com from CatchBoynton.com. We will continue to maintain the domain CatchBoynton.com so that any future searches for that site will be directed to the current website. And as of this afternoon, that redirect was active and working. We love how the homepage really brings the wow factor and provides a great first impression. It features visually appealing photos with quick access links to our most popular pages.
Bonnie, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The mouse share is not working.
I resent that to you. Did it come through this time? Perfect.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so as you scroll down, the calendar tab provides a list of the upcoming meetings, and if you click any meeting date, it will provide additional meeting participation information. The News tab features the CRA's most recent quarterly newsletter, and the Spotlight tab will feature Businesses of the Month, where we can include the promotional video and contact information. The BBCRA at a Glance focuses on the financial capability of the current fiscal year with links to additional information found on the finance page. The homepage also offers a quick snapshot of our social media, so any visitor can easily access content on these platforms. And then lastly, of course, we have a footer with quick access to our contact information as well. I'd also like to bring attention to the accessibility widget provided by Accessibee. This widget brings our website to meet or exceed ADA accessibility standards. I want to say a special thanks to Debbie Majors for sharing this resource with me and providing guidance during our website development, as well as to Ted Goodenough for providing his review and feedback of the website. For a quick demo, any user coming to the site can click the widget, which is always located in the bottom right corner, to activate any of the accessibility profiles. For example, the visually impaired profile, when activated, will enlarge the graphics and text on the website. There are also accessibility profiles for blind users and various cognitive abilities or ADHD. If any of the default settings do not meet a user's needs, they can choose various content, color, or orientation adjustments below, such as text color or cursor size. Next, I would like to bring attention to the overall organization of the website. We feel we have created a very clean, organized look with easy navigation. Under the About BBCRA tab, site visitors can find general information on the BBCRA, its board and staff, as well as meeting and agenda information and financial reports. One of the new features to point out is the Public Records Request Form, which provides an online portal to submit requests for additional information that may not be available on our website. This makes information requests very accessible to the public. I will now pass to Mercedes, who will provide an overview of the Business Promotion and Events tab.
Thank you, Bonnie, and good evening, CRA Board. Mercedes Coppin, Business Promotions and Events Manager. The Business Promotions and Events tab features a listing of all of the CRA events, as well as a link to the Boynton Beach Insider blog and our newly added business directory. Site visitors can read an overview of each of the events and learn about the specific mission and objective of CRA-funded events. When a visitor clicks on a specific event tab, we will use the Haunted Pirate Fest and Mermaid Splash as an example. They are directed to the designated event page, which features a variety of dynamic photos that provide a visual depiction of the event. And there is also a list of bulleted event highlights for easy readability. One of the other pages that we'd like to highlight under the Business Promotions and Events tab is the business directory. Our intent with the business directory is to eventually grow it to where it will be a comprehensive listing of every business located within the CRA area. Our team will work to update the website with new business listings each week, and we highly encourage all businesses that are located in the CRA area to submit their business listing through the online form. Please note that this directory is exclusively for businesses who are located within the boundaries of the CRA area, so all listings must be approved by staff before being published to the website. The directory can either be searched alphabetically or by industry, and basic information will include the business name, address, phone number, website, and hours of operation. Site visitors can also click on a listing to view additional information about a specific business, which would include social media handles and also our CRA business development videos that have been released. We are very excited about this new function on the website and look forward to using this directory to further promote our local businesses. I will now pass back to Bonnie.
Thanks, Mercedes. Under the Business and Development tab, site visitors will find our business and housing grant applications, as well as additional information on development opportunities, any active or upcoming RFP, RFQs, and our SMOP program. On the grant pages, we are committed to making the program guidelines and minimum qualifications very clear, so it's easy to understand the goal and intent of the program. We also utilize scrolling images. For example, on the property improvement grant page, we use side-by-side before and after photos, which immediately demonstrate the purpose of the property improvement grant. Now back to Mercedes, who will provide an overview of the marina pages.
Thank you, Bonnie. Now, the Boynton Harbor Marina is one of the premier waterfront destinations of our area, so we wanted to make sure that the marina pages were visually appealing and easy to navigate. The marina pages, which can be accessed directly with the URL BoyntonHarborMarina.com, provide general information about the marina, including hours, marine fuel pricing, a tide chart, and a local weather report. The transient dockage page provides specific information about the marina amenities and policies, and also allows interested parties to check slip availability and book directly through the website with the Snag a Slip plugin. The Marina tab also features information about the waterfront dining options and each of the recreational charters that operate from the marina, including the fishing charters, scuba diving charters, and the watercraft rentals. I will use the fishing page as an example. However, each of the pages are formatted in the same fashion with actual photos from the charters, as well as the address, website, and phone numbers for each business. And now back to Bonnie.
All right, so one of the most exciting parts of our website is the BBCRA projects page. This page highlights the completed, current, and future redevelopment projects, which further support our mission of creating a vibrant downtown core. From this page, site visitors can click into any tile to learn additional information. On the completed projects page, you can see a collage of the projects the CRA has completed throughout the years. We really love how this page showcasing the various projects that are transforming our city. By clicking on any tile, you can access additional information. We created a standard format for each page, which features scrolling pictures from the project, as well as quick facts on the project location, commencement and completion dates, and funding contributions. Below the quick facts, we also provide a brief project description. Lastly, we want to show off our interactive boundary map, which is found on various spots on the website. We are very grateful to Jennifer Marangos in the GIS department for her help and patience in creating this map for us. It's been a dream for staff to learn more, to create this map and learn more about the CRA district and projects. The first tab shows our overall boundary map, which is sectioned off into our 6 different districts. Users can hover over any colored block, which will highlight the district name. The completed, current, and future tabs have mapped out the respective projects found on the project page on our website. And this page clearly defines where the project is located and the district it falls within. And by clicking on the waypoint, users will find the quick facts for each project. Also, once we resume hosting events, the events tab can be updated with future parking locations for each event. Again, we're very excited to have this new addition to our website, and we look forward to updating it as we continue future redevelopment efforts.
Our team has worked incredibly hard on this website, and now we are very excited to share it with everyone. Our marketing of the new website began this week, and over the course of the next month, we will continue to utilize our social media platforms to promote the website's new layout and features. We also encourage you to share the new website domain, BoyntonBeachCRA.com, with your constituents in your designated districts. And with that, we conclude our presentation. Are there any questions?
Fabulous. Excellent
Thank you.
presentation, guys. Awesome. Really awesome.
Yes, Board Member Hay.
I'd just like to say that is awesome. If I didn't live in Boynton already, I would want to move to Boynton. The only thing you didn't sell me on was that whether or not you got some lottery tickets. But really outstanding, guys. Job well done. Particularly in that business directory. That is just awesome, because I was just having some thoughts about that just the other day, and this website will answer those questions. So I'm extremely proud of that. Have you determined how many businesses at this point that we have in the CRA district, or are you still adding, or what? I also like to say that that the boundary map is another piece that really got my attention there. Those are just outstanding. You guys did a very good job. Well done, well done. And
Thank you.
if you could just tell me, have you determined how many businesses are in CRA business at this point?
Yes, Board Member Hay. We continue to add to our business list each week. In fact, currently right now we have about 240 businesses that are on our list that we maintain. We know that there are many more businesses within the CRA area. One thing that Renee Roberts and I have personally been doing is we're going through the district and we're going door to door to introduce ourselves to businesses and to collect their business information. Just last week, we were on Boynton Beach Boulevard with the assistance of Officer Rivera from the NOP program. We were visiting with businesses, and we've added about 15 new businesses to the list since last week, and we'll continue doing that as we work our way through the district.
Excellent. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions or comments from the board? Yes.
Board and members of the public, I just wanted to take this opportunity to say a special thank you to Bonnie Nicklin and Mercedes Coppin, who, whilst all of the staff contributed to the new website, those two, Bonnie and Mercedes, really took on the lion's share of the management, the project management, the creation, all of these pages, the links, how it all works, the widgets. Just really, I'm just so proud of them, and I really appreciate the positive comments from the board. It really is, it's great to see when new tasks are given to these folks that they just immediately rise to the occasion and exceed really any expectation, not having done a lot of this on a daily basis, certainly, but they have the capability to adjust so quickly and do this. I can't say enough about it, and really all the staff, but this has really been something we've been trying to get off the ground for about 5 years now, and they took ownership and done a really great job. So thank you, Bonnie and Mercedes.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And yes, no, it's a great website, and we're glad that we have the updated aspect. I remember when I first came to the CRA meetings, Board Member Hay was the chair at that time, and he would used to do the motto of breezing into Boynton. So I'm glad we're moving on and up.
That's right. That's right. That was good.
The good old days.
Thanks for giving him credit for that. That was good, poor chair.
Thank you. Very good.
Our next item is marketing, business promotions, and social media update.
Good evening, board. Renee Roberts, social media and communications specialist. Our business development team has prepared a PowerPoint to share some of the social media marketing and business promotional initiatives that were executed throughout the month of January. Alan, could you please open the first attachment? Great, thank you. And move to slide 1. Perfect. Throughout the month of January, the CRA social media platforms were utilized to promote various CRA projects as well as local businesses located within the CRA area. Here's a brief snapshot of social media posts that were published. Next slide. Each week, we try to share a unique post that is related to a previous, current, or future CRA project. Here are 2 examples of project posts that were shared in January. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the previous slide. We published posts to promote the Promenade Park, which opened in 2006 and continues to provide a beautiful scenic trail for community members. And we also promoted the booking availability of the Historic Women's Club of Boynton Beach. On this slide, there are some examples of posts that were shared to promote businesses in the CRA area and encourage community members to shop and dine locally. These 2 posts were shared to promote banana boats, pineapple jalapeno infused margaritas, and the Valentine's celebration that is scheduled to take place at Ocean Plaza on February 13th. Next slide, please. We also shared posts to promote Guacago and the new partnership between the Boynton Harbor Marina and Boynton Ice. Next slide. In January, we published, continue scrolling, please. In January, we published this beautiful 1/4-page ad in the Coastal Angler magazine to promote the transient dockage availability at the Boynton Harbor Marina. I'll now pass on to Mercedes for the remainder of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Hello again, board. Mercedes Coppin, Business Promotions and Events Manager. In January, Alan, if you could just go to the next slide just for the newsletter. Perfect. Thank you very much. In January, the winter issue of the quarterly Redevelopment Works newsletter was distributed to the CRA subscriber list and also promoted on social media. The newsletter includes 8 categories. In this issue, the feature story focused on answering frequently asked questions about the agency, such as why we were created and how we are funded. The redevelopment section provided an overview of the Cottage District project. Our hashtag Hit the Biz section provided a spotlight of 5 businesses, which were Jackie's Grooming Spa and Hotel, Schuer's Chocolate, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Pio Pio, and Apex Network Physical Therapy. Additional businesses were promoted underneath the Boynton Harbor Marina section. We specifically promoted the Dock and Dine availability, which is available at 2 George's Waterfront Grill, Banana Boat, and Prime Catch. The newsletter also included promotion of the booking availability at the Historic Women's Club of Boynton Beach, program information about the SMOP program, information about the Boynton Beach Bucks promotion, as well as the new CRA website, affordable workhouse grant program, and our neighborhood sign installation and repair grant program. And if you could please go to the next slide. At the very beginning of January, we posted the final blog for the Bon Appetit Boynton Beach digital marketing campaign. The blog included a brief overview of Vatsamori, as well as the ingredient list and recipe for their margarita pizza. Next slide, please. We also published a blog to spotlight the automotive and service providers that are located in the Industrial Craft District. The blog provided a brief write-up of 8 businesses located on Industrial Avenue, as well as their contact information. And this was done in an effort to encourage residents to shop local and utilize local businesses for their service needs. Next slide, please. And if you could just keep going, please. Thank you. In January, our team worked to finalize the launch of the Boynton Beach Bucks program. As of today, we have 12 businesses that have applied for the program, and they include a variety of restaurants, retailers, and service providers, such as Your CBD Store, Boulevard Paints, Starfish Scuba, and Mac Lash and Beauty, to just name a few. We wanted to identify how each business could best benefit from the program. So our team began to meet with individual businesses last month to determine a unique campaign to promote their business and encourage visitors and community members to patronize them. For the very first promotion, we worked with the CMS3 to create an offer that would hopefully drive additional bookings to the charter during the week when they tend to have fewer customers. The special offer provides a $10 off charter. The special offer provides $10 off of a charter that is booked between February 6th and February 12th for the first 50 respondents. The offer is being promoted on social media and also with a custom poster that is displayed at the CMS ticket window. As of yesterday, the CMS shared that 8 customers had already taken advantage of the promotion. We look forward to reporting back next month with additional information on their promotion and those final stats. And with that, that concludes our presentation. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to our Neighborhood Officer Program fourth quarter report.
Yes, Board Chair and board members, the attached item is providing you with as you mentioned, the fourth quarter of 2019-20 fiscal year and the first quarter of 2020-21 report as presented by the officers of the Neighborhood Officer Program. I'm not sure if...
we do have Sergeant Deal here.
Very good. Hello, Sergeant Deal.
Put the camera on him. There he is.
Hi, Sergeant.
Sergeant, Boynton Beach Police Department. Yes, there's 2 quarterly reports here, the fourth quarter of fiscal year 1920 and the first quarter of fiscal year 2021. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any of the questions before I proceed.
Please proceed. But just want to make sure the microphone's on for you. It's the button where it says push.
Push.
Is the green light on?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. So you'll have to repeat what you just said.
I will do so. Henry Deal, Sergeant, Boynton Beach Police Department. I'm here to review the fourth quarter of fiscal 1920 and the first quarter of fiscal 2021 of the quarterly report for the Neighborhood Officer Program. Do you have any questions? Hearing none.
Please proceed.
All right. In the fourth quarter of the fiscal 1920, that was during pretty much the height of the pandemic. That goes back to July, August, and September of 2020. During that quarter, Officer Paramore was still in a light duty status. So Officer Rivera was pretty much holding her own. I helped her out on occasion. We also handled back to school during that time. We were doing as much as we could with what we had, but we did what we had to do. So moving into the first quarter of this fiscal year 2021, it was back to school, of course, with a limited scale, but it was also the holidays, and we were able to facilitate the Boynton Beach Police Department Shop with a Cop program this year, much more than previous years. In previous years, we used to do our own Secret Santa things and with the neighborhood and all that stuff. We had to scale that back with the COVID situation. So I was reviewing online. You'll see the attachments. For some reason, on the fiscal 2021 first quarter, the pictures didn't make it through for some reason. So I'll have to get that to you from staff. So usually there's pictures on the last few pages, but there's none. I didn't see any when I pulled it up, but I'll have to get that to you. But moving forward, I do have a good person to introduce tonight. She's on the line. We do have a new community service officer that's being assigned to the Neighborhood Officer Program. Her name is Emily Vasquez. She is going to be the community service officer assigned to the CRA district. She's on the line, so if the guy in the sky can open up her mic and she can introduce herself. Again, Community Service Officer Emily Vasquez.
Emily, it says you're self-muted.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Afternoon. You want to state your name? You don't have to state your position. And what are you looking to do as our community service officer for the neighborhood officer program?
Okay, well, I'm CSO Vasquez with the Community Service Officer program. I just want to give back as much as I can, show that there's presence, show that we do care, and that we're here for the people and to do whatever we can to help them.
Okay. And will you also be located at the community policing over on, I think, 1550 North Federal Highway?
Yes.
And what will your what will your hours be there?
We're still working
as of right.
Oh, we're still working
Yeah.
on it. Okay.
She's not officially transferred over yet. She's still in her final weeks of training. She's in there. So when we finally get her transferred over, we're going to work all that out. But yeah,
Okay.
she will be stationed at the 1550 North Federal Highway office.
All right. Well, we at the CRA look forward to promoting that greatly. So as soon as we have that information, I'm sure everyone will know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to old business. Consideration of fiscal year 2021 budget amendment for unreserved fund balance.
Yes, board chair and board members, the item before you is one of our annual exercises as we close out the fiscal year, the previous fiscal year, which in this case is 1920. You remember that we did our audit report at the January meeting, and as a result of that, part of the closeout includes identifying any unused funds that or in any of the accounts left over from the fiscal year, and then moving those funds forward through a budget amendment, which is also attached here as Budget Amendment Resolution 21-1. This particular year, there is an unassigned fund balance of remaining funds of $445,561. These technically now are unassigned and are being brought before you for allocation into the project fund for this current fiscal year, 2020-21. These funds can be placed in any of the existing line items that you have in the project fund, such as acquisition or Cottage District or Boynton Beach Boulevard, or it could be identified for a new project. And the only new project that CRA staff just wanted to bring to your attention was one that was discussed during the spring budget and summer budget discussions, which was the Veterans Park parking lot. If you know where that is, that's the city-owned lot next to the Veterans Park there behind Bud's and the CVS. This may or may not be still of interest to you as it was this summer, but again, I'm just bringing forward that as an item that we knew that was of interest. Again, their priorities could have changed, but I threw that out there because it was something we talked about. And we're just looking for your approval of the amendment and then where to place the allocation of the funds. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll open it up to the board if they have any direction. Yes.
Chair.
Member Katz and then Vice Chair.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor, and
Board Chair.
Board Chair. I support the recommendation from CRA staff. I think that we have a gem of a public park there for our veterans, and if all of us have been there, on numerous occasions, and restoring that parking lot or upgrading that parking lot would do a great service. A lot of the people who visit that park, understandably, are of a certain age that they served, and right now, there's dirt parking and street parking, and I just think this would be a safety issue as well that we could mitigate. So I support the recommendation. I'd have one question for staff, and that is, and I'm assuming this, that the fund balance available would be able to cover all necessary parking lot upgrades, or is there more funds that would be necessary?
Uh, Thank you, Board Member Katz. At this point, our discussions with city staff have indicated that this plus some funding that they have available will be enough to produce the product that we have in the backup, which is an upgrade. And certainly, as you mentioned, not only for the those visiting the park, but I think that area, it would also, I think, generally upgrade that street as well. So, but yes, according to city staff, we have the funding available with 445.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I think Board Member Katz made some excellent points regarding the users and their age and their contributions. I do have a question for staff. So in addition to the people who go to the park, are there any other patrons nearby that would need this parking lot? Or would it just be for visitors to the park?
No, it would be a city public parking lot, much like the ones that we have at the 115 site or around Town Square. I would anticipate additional parking needs of the Fish Depot, I guess bar and grill would certainly on weekends utilize that overflow. It could be for any other member of the public that needed to access shopping or anything along that line. But I would imagine to be primarily for the businesses around that area and for those visiting Veterans Park.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And, I do understand. I was at the Veterans Park on February 3rd. I didn't see that there was a need for additional parking or the parking lots. The issue is there going to be a sidewalk constructed into the park, or are people still going to have to walk on the road in order to get to the Veterans Park from that location?
My understanding would be that they would cross as a pedestrian crosswalk. I don't think there wouldn't be anything cut out necessarily in the road, but the sidewalk would match up to the existing right-of-way height and then dovetail into the sidewalk on the other side in Veterans Park.
Okay.
And there'll be lighting upgrades and as well, but.
The aspect of the $450,000 to build another parking lot when there is a parking garage literally across the street, the signaled intersection where there's ample parking, I don't think is the best use of funds. We have upcoming projects with the Cottage District, hopefully the Palm Beach County Housing Authority property, put funding towards there, or be planting more trees. One of my main reasons for not building another parking lot is I saw the parking lots on Quantum Boulevard, and the city and the developer there tore down 6 acres of trees to put up parking lots that aren't going to be used. The fact is that that parking lot may be used 10 times a year for events, and out of 365 days, I don't think that's the best use of funds. This is my position. I think the money could be better used elsewhere within the CRA, hopefully for land banking. And so I'll be voting against this. I think that there are better projects. I've used that part, that area for parking for the past 8 years, and I've never had any issues with it. I think the money could be better spent elsewhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair.
And so my follow-up question would be, as that gravel region is right now, I don't know if this is a question for staff, but are there any concerns for safety for the seniors who do come and use the park? In other words, is it unsafe to walk in there? or any type of safety concern. I'm trying to gauge the priority level of that area.
Well, Vice Chair, I would say that anytime you have a lot that is being utilized officially or unofficially that isn't improved, I'm sure there's those that would consider, the uneven ground and the mixture of gravel and grass and dirt less desirable than, an actual paved parking lot. I don't know that city staff hasn't provided us with any, let's say, official fire, marshal concerns about safety or what have you. I think it's more of a thought of just practicality. When there's a smooth, refined surface, it's just a better walking surface than what exists there now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we do have someone from the public that would like to make a comment. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, it's Tim Collins from the Fish Depot Bar and Grill. I agree with the mayor that to spend an exorbitant amount of money on building a parking lot in that space is not an efficient use of the funds for the city. But as that was just brought to the attention, the gravel part of that, covering the gravel part of that with some type of permanent covering and lighting in that whole area, that whole little back bench really, be improved and improve some of the homelessness in the area and some of the other things that are going on in that neighborhood. That part would be a prudent use of funds, I feel.
Yeah, I do agree that lighting along Northeast 4th Street is needed along many areas of the CRA. And so I'd like to see the funds spent for lighting other areas in the CRA. I know that there are certain places, I think I've mentioned in the past regarding Galaxy Park, the pool along Ocean Avenue and Northeast 4th Street would definitely be a better place for the money to be spent. And plus, the fact is that there are canopy trees there. I wouldn't want to tear down those canopy trees that have been there for decades to try to put up new trees that would take decades to cover the same amount of space. So, yes, Board Member Katz.
Michael, would the plan require the removal of many or any mature trees on the site, or could that be worked around?
I'm going to pull up the, thank you, Alan. Let's see, I don't have the landscape plans attached. There's the aerial. I'm quite certain that the city, in the plans for the project, it does, yeah, I do have the landscape plan. I believe it's the 4th page, Alan. I did include that, thank goodness. It does look like they've drawn the plans to remove those trees, but I think that if the CRA board and or the city commission at a later date just requested, again, these are preliminary drawings to do for cost estimating and to see how many spaces they could get there. If you'll notice, I would say that middle row of parking is about where the trees are. I'm sure that if there was the desire of the board or the city commission, that staff could arrange or redesign the parking lot to easily accommodate spaces around that. I think they just needed some direction from that.
And after looking at it, I think it doesn't make any sense that you have the entrance and exit where people have to walk through to get to the sidewalk on the other street. You'd probably want a crosswalk there, and you can't have that on an entrance exit. And, you know, the fact that most people of the history have been using the entrance along Northeast 3rd Avenue to get to that from Bud's and also CVS. I think, you know, the way that it's currently designed is to maximize concrete, and I don't think that's what we want to do for this location.
Sure. I think that for the purposes of this evening, the idea, and certainly we'd have to enter into an ILA with the city if you decided to fund the project, that this is really an exercise in the decision is, do you want to spend money on parking in the site? And then we would absolutely take the direction from this evening or a future meeting and any that the commission would provide to city staff and make revisions to the drawings, of course. These are for purposes of identifying the site and I guess providing a visual image for the board. So you can, if this is your desire to put some parking there, I'm sure that city staff can work on a different design that would accommodate your concerns.
So you know, my main concern is dealing with lights within the CRA to help our existing structures and businesses. And so that is something that I think the money should be spent that way. And so if someone from the board would like to make a motion to move those funds into, you know, basically it's a coordination with the city. So I don't want, so Michael, do we have a fund, a line item for city improvements?
No, we would not have a line item for that, but you could call this you know, Northeast 4th Street improvements / Veterans Park area. You could put it into site work and development and draw from that into another project. That would be fine once it's identified.
Yeah, I'd like to put it into a new line item for lighting projects within the city, within the CRA district. Yes, Board Member Katz.
Mayor, so in the interest of seeing where the chips fall, I'm going to stick with my intent to make a motion to, pending further site approval of preservation of the trees and lighting in the area, I'd like to make a motion to move forward with considering allocating these funds for the purpose of this parking lot, if there's a second and a majority.
Board Member Hay, I believe you wanted to make a comment.
I agree with the board chair on this particular one. I think we can better spend that on lighting up some areas that's been of concern. There's been heavy activity causing us headaches. So I just feel we can better spend those funds in other areas of the CRA district. So I would not be voting for this particular item to move forward, except to add to a new line item as stated by our executive director to spend those funds in another area to be discussed.
All right, so is that your motion for a new light item for lighting areas within the CRA district?
So just to be clear, before we move on, I think Board Member Hay jumped in. Is there, does Board Member Katz's motion die without a second?
Thank you. Going once, going twice. Yes, Board Member Katz's motion dies without a second.
And I guess without having stated completely over again, but my motion is to create the line item that our executive director talked about and to take a look at spending those funds in other areas of the CRA district.
Do I have a second on that motion?
May I clarify?
Yes.
Board Member Hay, am I hearing you to say that the motion is to put a line item for lighting and street-based improvements consistent with the CRA plan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes, Vice Chair.
I'd like to second this motion. I support lighting up the CRA district. We've spoken about this in the past. I'm kind of glad we have money. And, you know, obviously this is a high priority item and it's about time. So thank you for making the motion, Commissioner Hay.
Thank you for second.
We have a motion and second. Do I hear any further comment from the board? Hearing none. May I have a motion to approve? I'm sorry, may I have all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Are there anyone that oppose?
Nay.
And Board Member Romulus, I believe you're voted in favor.
Yes,
So the
Chair.
vote is, thank you. It was 4-1. And a request all board members, if they have a particular lighting project that they would like, please forward that to our executive director so that he could work with the city.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Next, we will discuss regarding prevailing wage benefits and apprenticeship policies for CRA procurement and requests for proposals.
Yes, Board Chair. Executive Director Simon asked me to kick this off for your discussion. You may recall that some time ago, at the request of Board Member Katz, we brought forward some information from other jurisdictions about prevailing wage programs, apprenticeship programs, and other similar programs in other jurisdictions. That summary was provided to you previously, and you had asked staff to bring back our ideas for you to consider and then add to about how to incorporate those into the CRA's program, which is slightly different than that of a general purpose government. So the attachment that you have is fairly brief and gives you three ways that we recommend you to consider as you move into projects that deal with construction or TURFAs in the future. This can just be for each of your individual consideration as you move forward in discussing those projects. So what we have brought is basically just concepts and terms for you to be considering as you move forward with projects. And I can give you specific information or answer any questions. And Mr. Simon may have something to add, but I just wanted to do that for you.
Thank you.
I think, you know, after the November election or November ballot with the increasing of the wages, minimum wage here in Florida, starting at $10 this year and moving up to the $15. I think this is something that, you know, we as not necessarily a resolution of the CRA, but something that we put in request for proposals that anyone who is working with the CRA for tax incremental funding or for property supports a living wage of at least $15 per hour for all of their employees. In addition, I'd like to state that any apprenticeship programs in any request for a proposal would be met with tax incremental funding or maybe lump sum funding so that could be started. And so we can weigh the developers in that manner of, you know, as a community benefit by providing living wages and apprenticeship opportunities for the new projects within the city of Boynton Beach. And those are my comments that You know, I don't know what we can do for the cottage district, but if the developer there is requesting money, these are things that we can request in lieu for consideration of the funding that we provide.
And board chair, if I may add just a little bit more context.
Yes.
From my perspective, what I would see us as staff doing in support of your consideration of these items moving forward with projects is we oftentimes present term sheets to you that give you an understanding of the options and things to consider as you're approving agreements and negotiating contracts and deals. I would see these concepts being something we would put in terms of consider for particular projects as they are appropriate. And obviously that'll be different for different types of projects. But I think this is part of a larger project staff and I have talked about giving you basically a things to consider list for projects, this being one of them that was brought forward by Board Member Katz.
Yes, Board Member Katz.
So I would support the first option, which is require as a term of agreements that the wages and fringe benefits, you know, be prevailing wages that are calculations for the region. The reason I'd ask for that is because I don't want trained and skilled labor being paid minimum wage, and I think that prevailing wages are substantially higher than that. I think that they might be paying some of these subcontractors that aren't trained or local, they might be paying them $15 or more right now, but the prevailing wage for some of these trained iron workers and electricians and masons far exceeds minimum wage. So I would want to have as strong a language as possible, akin to what we're talking about with affordable housing and workforce housing provisions for the city or the CRA. I want to make sure there's teeth in this. The second thing I'd say, and I don't know if I need clarification, but I wouldn't want to put in this, you know, resolution or whatever we're ultimately going to rest on. I wouldn't want to put anything about TIF agreement because one, that would be the purview of any future commission. I think if they would want to offer up the money, but two, at least my intent or my goal in offering this resolution or whatever it ends up being is to force developers to pay the appropriate wages. And if we as a CRA subsidize that, then that means that they're not paying the appropriate wages. We're paying the appropriate wages. And my intent wasn't for the taxpayers to fund a prevailing wage. It was for the developers to acknowledge that they need to pay people what they're worth and not subcontract out and use less skilled and less valued labor. So again, in the spirit of trying to make a strong new provision that developers would have to follow, I'd want to go with the prevailing wages indexed to what the trades are worth on the free market. So those would be my comments at this time.
Where does the developers find the prevailing wage index, Board Member Katz?
I think that Tara could elaborate on that, but it's set through government agencies based on, and Tara could elaborate, but based on you know, surveys of what the going rate for those specific trades and labor are in a given geographical region. Tara, is that about right, or could you elaborate?
Yes, it's established and published in the Federal Register for geographic areas. So as written here, it specifically references the Federal Register as applied to Palm Beach County.
Okay. And so we do have a definable prevailing wage for any person that works on the project. The reason why I'm in favor of subsidization of the developer is that we want the prices to be attainable. You know, it's, for example, the affordable housing projects is heavily subsidized by the state in order to have rent for the 30% and 60% median income earners. The aspect of is if we want developers to pay the prevailing wage and not subsidize it, their costs go up. And if their costs go up, the revenues must coincidentally go up, and therefore the prices for rent or new construction and ownership will go up. And my aspect of Boynton Beach remaining a work a working community. I do agree that this is the not aspect of affordable, which is 30 to 60% of median income, but more of workforce, which is 80 to 120, 140%. So that we're talking millions of dollars. And so if we're able to subsidize it so the average cost goes down 10, 15% and creates abilities for the workforce community to have home ownership, that's not something you really can find elsewhere east of 95. And that's why I'm in favor of subsidization, and that not necessarily, we don't have to necessarily do it with CRA funds, but anything similar to the Seaboard and Cove deal, that we subsidize their development so that it was environmentally friendly. As I mean previous CRA administrations. And that's something that I'm in favor of. I'm in favor of subsidizing any development for environmental reasons, for economic development, and for home ownership. And I think that is something that we need to realize, especially after we found out that the median income for Boynton Beach is $53,000, which is significantly lower, about 15% lower than Palm Beach County. And so in order for us to be competitive and to be giving quality projects, we need the subsidization. And you can look at it with 500 Ocean, Casa Costa, Marina Village, Seabourn Cove. I think it's the Preserve up north. And so all these projects receive subsidization to decrease the market value so that it is attainable in the city of Boynton Beach. And so, Board Member Katz.
And I think that I'll preview this as kind of a part of the conversation that I put on future agenda items, so I won't go too much into it, but I think when we look at some of those deals that were mentioned, Casa Costa, 500 Ocean, Seabourn Cove, and the fact that all of those projects have been flipped or are attempting to sell to another person for millions and tens of millions of dollars in profit. So I don't know if I've become less of a subscriber to the argument that there needs to be a subsidization of some of these projects for things that we require of them when they can sell it for millions and tens of millions of dollars of profit within 5 or 10 years, and in some cases still reap tax increment financing because the deal that was cut 5 or 10 years ago continues to the new owner. So obviously, whether it's this or a future CRA board can spend TIF money however they please. I just wouldn't want to set the standard that we are automatically or we intend to subsidize it. So again, I won't go much into that because that's kind of a large portion of the philosophical discussion I want to hold at the next meeting on the future of TIF and examples of what has happened versus what we wish had happened given some of the outcomes. So I just, any board, I guess, could spend TIF money however they want, but I just wouldn't want to put it anywhere near in writing, because then they would just come in and say automatically, give me the money to pay these people. I know that the argument of developers is constantly that they can't afford to, or that they can't profit from it, therefore they wouldn't invest their resources here. But I think evidence of some of the projects that have come out of the ground in the past decade that have received TIF funding is that they lie to get the funding and then they sell for massive profits. So I've had a philosophical debate with myself lately on this particular topic.
Understandable. And so I think definitely with the TIF funding on future agenda, we will get those numbers of the cost of construction, the amount of money that they received, and the sales price, so that we can, get some empirical evidence of what your beliefs are. So, but moving forward with this item, how do you want to, so you want to state that prevailing wage is required for
what? Any CRA incentivized project with a minimum threshold. Obviously, I'm not talking about if someone builds a.
May I make a suggestion to the motion? As written, the first bullet, I think that's what Board Member Katz was referring to previously, could be framed as the policy of the CRA is to require as a term. It could be framed in the terms of the motion to be the policy. That gives you the flexibility to determine what an appropriate agreement is based on projects and the terms of that project. So it would give you flexibility without requiring you to set those types of parameters at this point. And I'll let Mr. Simon speak as to setting those parameters. If that's the will, he may want some time to do that. But you can certainly establish a policy to require as that particular bullet as the policy, or any one of these bullets, frankly.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Tara. I think just by establishing and determining which of these you would like to see in future agreements as they apply is the perfect way to go.
And that would require staff to bring forward that consideration with every agreement that comes forward, because it would be the policy to require it in appropriate agreements, and therefore it would be part of the discussion for all projects moving forward in all contracts.
So you're saying, I think you said it clearly, but I just want to repeat it so I fully understand that it would, by virtue of approving this as stated in the first bullet, it would be mandatory to bring up the discussion item anytime any CRA project, any CRA funded project occurred, but then it would be to the discretion of that board to determine if a project did or didn't cross a threshold that warranted the implementation of it.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And do we have a second regarding the prevailing wage bullet?
Chair,
Yes, Vice Chair.
I will second that. I'd actually like to go further than that first option. I'd like to just bring everyone's attention to the notes that have been provided in terms of what other cities and counties are doing. Our neighbor to the northwest, Palm Beach, already has a program in place. And in fact, if you look at the notes, they say that construction contracts become void and no funds are released if these factors that we've discussed are not certified. They've got to prove that they are paying people at the prevailing wages. And they even go so far as to say what happens if a developer then reneges on that agreement. And it talks about one mechanism to ensure that developers stick with that agreement is to have them keep coming back for the funding. In other words, let's not dispense funding in one fell swoop, and then they promise us everything up front, and then they don't follow through at the end. But if we dispense funding gradually as we do, but every time they come to us for funding, they come back with evidence that they are in fact paying people, they're having apprentices as agreed upon. And so that kind of safety mechanism to ensure compliance, it's something that I'm also in favor of.
And so, Tara, what would we need to state to have that included?
I think you could amend that bullet by leaving it the same, but at the end say, and include appropriate terms to ensure compliance and monitoring and compliance of these provisions.
I would move that amendment forward to my original motion.
Thank you. All right. So we have the first motion amended to include the ability for confirmation of payment of living wage. All right. And so do I have a second on the amended motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Board Member Hay. If there's no further discussion, and I don't think anyone's hands raised, asking questions, we will, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you, Board.
All right, and did we want to mention anything regarding the apprenticeship policies?
Not at this time. I think I definitely want to put those additional teeth into it. But I don't know exactly how at this precise moment, unless staff has a serious recommendation.
None for the apprenticeship program, Board Member Katz, but as individual projects come before you that are suitable for something like that, or extra points given to an organization that knows how to do that and do that well, I think is certainly worth your contemplation at that particular point in time. But I think without having a kind of a set way of providing an apprenticeship program, it's a little too difficult for you as a board to describe it, since there are so many flexible ways of handling things. You could do it on a case-by-case basis.
And to Tara, the way that if we were to move forward on the apprenticeship requirement, essentially the easiest or most common way is to cite a specific minimum number of hours on the project that would require apprentice trained employees to be working.
Yes, that's a common way to do it.
Okay.
Chair,
Yes.
I have a question for Tara. Tara, I asked you this earlier. I wasn't sure if you had the opportunity to find this answer. But in the notes you provided, you mentioned that Broward County has a construction apprenticeship program. And I just wanted to better understand how that worked. Is it that the county government itself has some sort of program and then developers tap into that? Or is this a program that every developer has to develop on their own?
Yes, you did ask me that question, and unfortunately, I was not able to speak with Telsila Morgan, who is my colleague and one of your CRA attorneys, who did the deep down research on that. But I will get a summary of that program and email each of the board members tomorrow with that, if that's okay with you.
It is. I appreciate it. I just, my first attitude in things is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, if it's already there and it works.
Thank you.
We just have to find a really good model, a really good example. So thank you, Tara.
No problem. Thanks.
Thank you. Moving on to update on purchase and development agreement with Boynton Beach Cottage District Development LLC for the Cottage District infill housing redevelopment project.
Yes, Board Chair and board members, I just wanted to provide you with a brief update on the progress and activities between the last meeting of the CRA board and this evening. As you may remember, I mentioned that the staff and the development team of Boynton Beach Cottage District LLC and the CRA staff met with city development staff and some building department staff to discuss the original site plan layout as submitted to the board underneath the Cottage District RFP, RFQ. They have spent a significant amount of time taking the comments from city staff at that pre-app meeting and applying them to revisions to their submitted site plan. We have not had a chance to meet prior to the meeting this evening, but we do have a scheduled pre-app meeting with city staff and planning staff and the development team tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So we would be providing you with an update, I think more significantly, with some progress at your March meeting. If there are changes to the site plan that they've submitted, I think it would be appropriate to bring those forward to you prior to getting into too much detail on negotiating the contract, so that we can gauge your support of what was changed and whether or not it's still a project that is laid out the way you would like to, before again we waste a lot of time negotiating a contract that may or may not hit all of the items that the project itself is designed to. So we'll provide you that in March.
So I just want to follow up with what you were saying, Michael, is that
sure.
We don't have any numbers yet from the BBCD.
Correct.
Okay. And I guess that's kind of the major thing that we need to figure out before we move forward.
Yes, sir.
If they did request for funding, and that they are trying to have a contract for part of the Oyer property.
Yes, sir.
What I did wanted to, I did speak to you about was that there is a property on the southwest portion of our cottage district that is listed above, I would guess, appraised value. And I'd like to know where the board sits on adding, trying to purchase that or helping the developer trying to purchase that. I think that piece of property will help the flow and add, additional units, whether hopefully, in a townhouse sort of format. Otherwise, if we don't include it now, it won't, it will just most likely be a rental property for the time being. And Michael, do you have any information on that the property? I don't have the address off the top of my head.
Well, if Alan would like to pull up or could pull up attachment 1, it will provide you with a map that, for those that aren't as familiar with the overall layout, the property that the board chair is mentioning, board members, is the property excluded from the red boundary line there in the lower left-hand corner, facing northeast 4th Avenue. There's only 2, as you can see, properties that the CRA wasn't able to acquire, that being the smaller western lot. It appraised, if I can remember correctly, somewhere in the low 200s, and the owner of the property has it listed for $375,000. I had a conversation with her. We've been very, very good relationship over the years. She has it rented now currently. It's not her primary residence, and that is what she is marketing the property for sale.
Yeah. I do see that it's homesteaded, and so if she's looking to move forward, she'll have to find a new homestead. The last time that I saw it listed was at $50,000. And
we want to make sure that is her homestead and she's not at another location. Otherwise, that would be something we need to do. Okay, so, yeah, very good. I'll look into that.
Looking at property appraiser, it says that it's her homestead.
Right. Unless,
so,
yes. We'll presume it is for now.
Well, the aspect of it is moving forward, does the board want to make an offer for that property? I do believe we have over 500,000 in our fund, or 400,000. Is that correct, Michael, for land purchases?
If Vicky is online, or if Teresa can tell me exactly what's left in our acquisition balance, by chance.
And then we got to unmute.
While she's doing that, Michael, would you repeat how much more over the appraised value she's asking?
Well, it's been over a year, well over a year since we've done an appraisal of the property. But I would say that the property is being sold for, or the asking price of the property is easily I would say $100,000 to $150,000 over value. But again, it's as a individual selling their home, or property, that's their prerogative. But currently, I would say that it is overvalued substantially at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I'll request the board that we make an offer for 300,000. I'm open for suggestions if you would like to offer a lower amount or a higher amount. But you know, it's that aspect of getting the final pieces of the project where, you know, I believe the MLK project would be very different if we didn't spend that last 100,000 to get that final property to finish up the parking lot there on Northeast 9th.
I'm all in favor of buying that piece of property too, to add another piece to the puzzle. But don't we, Michael, I think Michael would probably be in a better position to kind of negotiate that instead of setting a price at this juncture. How do you feel about that, Mike? You want us as a board to set an amount or give you some flexibility?
It's a public meeting, so whatever we say, she'll know. And that's why, you know, it's the point is that we make the offer and it's a final offer because Mike can't offer more than that.
Right.
And, you know,
Well,
and so I looked at the property appraiser's website. They said that the house on has a value of 89,000. The land has a value of 30,000. I think the land's value has definitely increased after we see the tax deeds going for 50,000 plus for similar size and similar locations. But you know, it's a tear down house. It was built in 1930.
Right. The disadvantage of this parcel is it doesn't provide the opportunity to construct, let's say, you know, by buying it, it doesn't give us 8 more units or 3 more units. It's a very small piece. It's a shame to have to. I understand your point, Board Chair, completely. I understand. I wish it was a more significant contribution to the project.
Well, no, I think it can be, because it's, you know, it's kind of the property to the west of it is kind of like surrounding it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I feel that you said around 150,000 was the appraised value last year.
I want to say it was last year or the year before, and maybe the high ones, the 150. It was really not bouncing up too much closer than that. But I don't have it in front of me. But even at that time, we were not able to agree on a price, and we haven't been over the years simply because we're generally off, you know.
And you're right, you know, she has a make me move price of 375, which I think is a little unreasonable. And I would put it, you know, at I believe like new cost construction for 3.2s in the heart of Boynton Beach selling last year at 255. So probably now would be 275. And that would be my max price, as I believe this will help redefine what the Cottage District site plan, and we'll hopefully work with our partner of the Boynton Beach Cottage District to really maximize the use. So Board Member Hay, would you agree with 275 as a max price?
Yes, I would.
All right. And would you make that in a motion then?
So moved to set the price at 275,000.
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion from the board? Seeing none. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed state so by saying nay. Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And Michael, if we look forward to any discussions that you have, and let them know that this is the final offer from the CRA board. So.
Yes, sir. I sure will. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Next, we are on discussion of status of purchase and development agreement with Ocean One Boynton LLC for the Ocean One project. So Tara, I'll let you lead on this, and then let the representative, who I believe has signed on, Bonnie Miskell, and the other people from who has their hand raised, speak after you.
So, good evening, Mayor Dewey, Attorney. This item is twofold. The first item is we are seeking a motion from you to confirm the expiration date and termination of the tax increment funding agreement and the First Amendment to the agreement that was executed between the CRA and Ocean One Boynton LLC. That agreement automatically expired on January 16th, 2021. We're just formalizing that termination with a confirmation vote from you. The other item before you tonight, which I believe Ms. Miskell will make a presentation or comments about, has to do with the requirement of the purchase and sale agreement or purchase and development agreement for the developer to commence construction of a public plaza on the property that was purchased by Ocean One as part of this development project. The board at our last meeting voted to extend or waive compliance with that particular provision, which expired prior to this meeting until today, and I will leave it to the developer's attorney to make a request on how they would like to proceed. Your options are to waive compliance with that term, or to instruct me to notify the developer that they are in breach of that term, or to negotiate some other resolution to the issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, now I'm going to unmute Ms. Bonnie Miskell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the CRA board. Bonnie Miskell here on behalf of the property owner, Mr. Davis Camelier, who apologizes due to a personal issue at home. He's unable to participate this evening. So Tara has given you the background. We had approached staff back in December to advise them that the TURF agreement and the funding that was provided therein was just not going to be able to get the client and the potential developer to a point where they could redevelop the site. And in an effort to be fully transparent and to provide the board with full disclosure, we had suggested to staff that we were just going to allow the TURFA to expire in accordance with the terms, which, as Tara stated to you, would have been at the end of January. Our position has not changed on that, and we're not going to ask you to do anything with that agreement or extend it, as the economics and structure that were the basis for that agreement were not viable. So here we are, and I'd like to bring you up to speed on some of the things that have occurred since last month that I didn't share with you. After the CR meeting last month, we spoke with Mr. Simon, and we also spoke with Mr. Groff following our conversation with Mr. Simon, and we want to try to get this site developed or redeveloped, and potentially in a way that is not necessary, that was not contemplated by the TURF agreement. So we're trying to think out of the box and be creative. And so we had approached staff, both with CRA and the city, on the possibility of a city funded parking garage that my client would lease back over a period of years for the full, under the full terms and the full cost of the garage. So we're exploring other options that may or may not be acceptable to you, all of which would be required for us to come back to you, whether that's viable or not. We weren't sure, but we're exploring every option we have. My client does have a development partner that is prepared to go forward with the development that we had proposed, or potentially coming back to you with something even different than that. So we were asking for some additional time in order to come back with something that is economically viable, that is acceptable to the CRA and the city. And at the time we were looking for 6 months. Since that conversation with Mike and with Mr. Groff, we actually have been presented another opportunity, and my client is expecting an LOI this week. So we may even be moving in a different direction that would make redevelopment of this site possible, and we're pretty excited about that. But the bottom line tonight, this evening, presenting to you, I don't have anything to show you or present at the moment that you could consider. So in any event, we're requesting some additional time in order to set the terms, set the concept, and then come back to you and re-present it to you. And if it's something that is acceptable to the CRA, we would go forward with the process for amending the site plan in order to obtain final approval of a project. At this point, we're asking for 90 days because we think that's the amount of time it will take in order to go to contract and come up with a concept plan that is of sufficient detail for the board to have an understanding of what they're looking at. So that's what we're willing to present. And in conversations with some of you, I know this was a purchase and sale agreement, and there was a condition to this purchase and sale that we'd rather not proceed with. My client can, if the board would rather have a public plaza with some landscaping and pavers, my client is prepared to do that. But at this point, he's closer than he was 30 days ago. He's certainly closer than he was a year ago, and prior to COVID. And he'd like the opportunity to be able to come back to you in 90 days with something. And to build a plaza, to have to tear it up later doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And we're not sure that the plaza would necessarily be used by anybody. So in light of the fact we are asking for an extension, at least as to commencement of construction of that improvement, we'd like to offer, to quote Mr. Mayor, some quid pro quo, and we're suggesting that we offer $5,000 for the CRA to use in whatever CRA fund you choose to, whether it's lighting or landscaping or anything else that you believe that you'd like to spend that money, at which point we come back in 90 days with a new proposal and a concept to present to you for you to consider to advise whether you find it acceptable or not. And I'm happy to answer any other questions. If you'd like to get into the details of who's approached them, I'm happy to do that, or we would likely do that in 90 days.
All right, and thank you, Bonnie. And I didn't mention quid pro quo. It's more of an extension with a real estate contract.
Yeah, I think you said consideration. I'm sorry, so I misstated that. Thank you, Mayor.
And so this is something where the reason why I mentioned that is because we're no worse for the wear waiting the 90 days because the time frame is still the same of January for them to build the park, unless we make them in default now, in which case money will be spent and it will end up, we don't want a park there, we want improvements. In addition, the city of Boynton Beach is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for the East Boynton Beach extension. And so with that money that could go there, $5,000 isn't nothing. And so that's kind of where, I'm in favor of the 90 days as stated. If the board feels that that's too long for the $5,000, I'm here also available for any other comments that you might have. And board member Capps, since I see you, you go first.
Thank you. Perk of coming back to the chambers. Either to Mike Simon or to Bonnie, what is the estimated cost if the property owner had to comply with the existing provisions to develop out that park space?
Mike, I'm happy to answer that if you'd like me to. Okay.
Yes, please, Bonnie. Thank you.
Thank you. So there was a graphic depiction that was incorporated into the PSA as an exhibit. I believe it was an exhibit, or it was an exhibit to the staff report. But it requires landscaping and pavers, and it's a very rough sketch. It's somewhere. My client hasn't priced it out, but he's assuming it's somewhere in the range of 10 to 20,000. And then, of course, if we had to tear it up later, whatever the demolition would be associated with that, which probably would be minor because they'd be doing the rest of the site.
Gotcha. Thank you. So I'm on board with the logic of the chair's proposal, but I would personally want to up that financial contribution to the cost of building it. That way, by donating that to the CRA for adjacent park or project improvements, it still saves the developer the cost of having to build it and then demolish it. So there's still some savings on his part. My concern is that, we had a conversation earlier, Ms. Miskell, and right now the land that we're talking about was acquired for pennies, basically. And the potential for a change in the project means that the reason that land was given to the developer might not ever be realized, depending on how we proceed. So I'm interested in getting as much for our taxpayers and our CRA residents as possible through this, while still saving some dollars for the developer. But I would offer the same ideology there as the chair, but bump it up to $20,000 total. And if you wanted to tack on a couple months extra to extend that, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But since this land was acquired for virtually nothing, and it appears now that the project that was envisioned is not likely to proceed, I think that's the least that the property owner could do, given that they've acquired a valuable piece of land that's worth millions of dollars to their project, hypothetically. The least they could do is put $20,000 towards some adjacent park or improvements in the area while they.
Board, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Bob. I've had Alan bring up the image that was provided as part of the exhibit to the purchase and development agreement for the plaza. Sorry, just wanted to let you know I was on the screen.
Thank you, Mike. Those are my comments at this time.
And Board Member Katz, would a donation for our town square project in one of those aspects, would that also be acceptable?
I was thinking, like you mentioned, the exchange on Boynton Beach Boulevard. I was thinking
it's if he gives it to the CRA or the city, we basically, unless he has a condition on the money spent, we can pretty much do whatever we want, especially because we're making the requests. We have that freedom. So
yeah, I'm open to any usage that benefits the public, as the board or the city were to support.
Mr. Mayor, may I respond?
It's board chair tonight, but
Oh,
yes.
sorry. Okay. Oh, Mr. Chair, sorry. Pardon me. Confused. So I just want to, if we treat this as an arm's length transaction, I have a project right now that is a multi-million-dollar project where they're seeking an 18-month extension for $60,000. For 90 days, $20,000 would be a significant cost, given that the value of the improvements are probably in the neighborhood of $20,000. So in the event that you wish for, or based on our last pricing, which was about a year ago, if your interest is a sum larger or potentially equal to the value of the improvements, then if we could consider some additional time, I think that may be proper. And I know Commissioner Katz or board member Katz had suggested that he would be amenable to that.
So Bonnie, there was a little static with you. Did you make a counteroffer?
Well, I'm not authorized to go over 5, but if in fact it's the board's wishes to grant an extension, and I'm sorry for the feedback, I hear it too, to grant an extension, we would just request up to 6 months, or sooner, and our hope would be to come in sooner.
All right, and so the fun aspect of being only meeting once a month, if you're unable to answer us, we'd have to wait the 30 days to get the answer for the 20,000 in 6 months. Is the board willing to do that?
I'm okay with that personally.
Okay.
The extra funds.
Okay with it.
And so,
Oh my.
All right. So Bonnie, you heard it from the board. I would prefer, I understand that it's kind of putting the developer in the point where saying, well, if I build the park for 20,000, I get limited extension. And that's why, I'm in favor of the, to try to make it, more feasible in the sense of the 10,000 or the 6 months, which would be double the original offer of 5,000 for 90 days. But I'll leave it to Board Member Katz to make the final decision.
Yeah, and I don't know if it needs. Well, there's two separate items, as Tara said.
Well, we're talking on the second item. I think we're all in agreement to the original TERFA to be dissolved.
Yeah, I agree. If there's no objection, that would be my requested proposal through Bonnie Miskell to her client for 20,000 for 6 months. I think, again, given the fact that the property was conveyed for nothing basically, and what we're going to be discussing in future meetings when they come back to us is going to be radically different than what was proposed when the land was given, that 20,000 is affordable.
And I would need that to be in a motion, as it's a counteroffer.
So moved.
All right. Tara, is there any questions that you have or comments regarding the motion of the 20,000 and 6-month extension? Tara, you're muted.
Dang it. The only just clarification as a point of order is that we're going to make that offer with an expectation that a response will be given to us at the March meeting.
Sure.
Can I ask a response as far as what? I'm not clear on what I'm responding to.
I think the motion from the board was to offer a 6-month extension for payment of $20,000. And so we would expect a response or counter offer to that to be presented at the March meeting, which would stay the enforcement of that provision of the agreement.
Understood. Thank you. I'm sorry. I understand.
No problem.
And to further clarify for your client, Bonnie, is that it was for the public good. We do have donations available for naming rights for our town square project. So that is also a possibility because the CRA is heavily funding that as well.
Understood. Thank you.
And so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Yes, you have a second.
All right. And is there any other discussion? Let me double check the online. Seeing none. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
And Chair, if we could just have a motion to confirm the expiration and termination of the TERFA
So moved.
as of January 16th, 2021.
We have a motion from Board Member Katz. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Vice Chair. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 15E, discussion consideration of survey questions for community input for the CRA project located at 115 North Federal Highway.
Sorry. Yes, board members, you had requested of staff after discussion at length of the desire to move forward with one of the letters of interest to the property that's owned by the CRA of 115 North Federal Highway, or to entertain moving to a request for proposal, request for qualifications for developers seeking interest in that property. One of the things that did come out of that discussion was a desire for the CRA board to gather public input, community input on desirable outcomes that the CRA might seek in an RFP scenario. What we have done at your request is to come up with a.
Michael,
Yes.
someone needs to mute their line.
I'm going to go check to make sure that all the other microphones are muted.
Thank you, Board Member Ramos. I wasn't sure if it was the feedback or the microphone.
Let's try now.
Okay. I'll reintroduce the item as discussed at the January 12th meeting of the CRA board when we were bringing forth the discussion on the CRA-owned property located at 115 North Federal Highway. The item in January was to consider options for development or redevelopment of the property, either to entertain one of the 5 letters of interest that the board had received and are identified on the agenda cover, or to move to a request for proposal and development proposals for some project that would be better outlined in a request for proposal. After some discussion with between the board members, it was decided that an attempt to gather community input via a very small 7 to 10 question survey would be the appropriate way to do so, and that the request was for staff to come up with questions with input from board members and present those draft questions to the CRA board, which was done at their meeting last Thursday evening on February 4th. And their responses to the draft questions are presented to you on the agenda cover, and they actually requested adding an additional item, but regardless, their feedback is provided to you. Under the attachment, attachment number 2 is the draft community survey that was presented to you as the board members and to the CRA board. We did receive one board member's input, which is attachment 3. Board chair made some suggestions on some language edits. I'm happy to go through each of the questions and provide you with the CRA feedback, or handle it any way you'd like me to, board chair.
Thank you. My comments would be is that I really appreciate the CRA staff for doing this, because as we mentioned earlier, there were people who wanted to speak on what type of questions that we have. And I'll ask, basically the way my comments are question by question, I'll ask the board, is it okay if we go by question? And that way we'll determine, and then you can proffer any CRA advisory board recommendations.
Chair, I'm fine with that direction. But if I may just make a brief comment.
Yes, please.
That's applicable to all the questions. I just want to make it clear, and I want it to be clear to the public, that when they fill out this survey, let's take an example. Number 3, would you like to see a hotel incorporated into a future project? That we set up the survey so it's clear to them that none of this is guaranteed, right? It is what they would like to see, but let us not give them the false impression that it can become a certainty, because we don't know what the market will bear or what the economics are at the end of the day. So I just don't want to lead people into that misconception. So let's make it clear. So maybe if somewhere in all these questions we say, if possible, if a hotel is possible, would you like to see it?
Vice Chair, I think we'll ask legal to perform a disclaimer, just so that everyone knows, just because you voted yes doesn't mean it's going to occur.
Thank you,
Terry.
Chair. That's a good idea.
Terry, is that a good idea?
Yes, we'll absolutely do that and include that in there.
All right. So the first question is, would you like to see a future redevelopment project incorporate a mix of uses such as commercial and residential? My comments is that residential and commercial is kind of vague. I stated office, retail, rental apartments, condominiums, green space, open space, transit authority. As you can see, it's a little bit different than just commercial or residential, because I feel I think if we can group the comments regarding rental apartments, condominiums, office space, retail, and then the third comment would be green space, open space, and transit authority. I want to make sure, because just answering yes to this or no, you don't really give us much input.
Chair, I like your suggestions. I would like to ask if we could add co-working space. I think that's kind of the modern version of an office.
I think, and so I didn't want to try to include more things. And so I didn't, because we did talk about corporate headquarters, the incubator space, innovation space. I think that would be covered under office. And so what the market would hold for office. So,
okay.
It's like, unless there's something different than what is currently stated, I think those aspects of residential, commercial, and public use is more descriptive and more informational. And so, Michael, do you think you can have that as more of a check box, and so someone could want all of them? And I think if you could provide a description where office could be co-working space, or corporate office, or individual offices, retail could be a grocery store, or small boutiques, restaurants, rental apartments, condominiums, are two different things. Green space is kind of landscaping, where you have trees, where open space is more kind of like a forum or a piazza. And then a transit authority, do we want to have a train station or a bus depot going through that? My position on the Palm Trans Service Board is that they're moving into electric buses. And so the aspect of diesel fumes are going to be less and less as time goes on. The second question, would you like to see a full service grocery store as a commercial component incorporated into the project? I think I made the question, you want to see a corporate headquarters as a commercial component. I think the aspect of the 12,000 and 20,000 square foot remains the same. So what I would like to amend the question to mean, would you like to see a full service grocery store and/or a corporate headquarters from 12,000 up to 20,000 feet as a commercial component incorporated to the future project? Had no comments onto the hotel. And then the fourth one, would you like to see workforce housing as a component of a future project? I stated, would you like to see government subsidized? And then as included in the project, because that could mean affordable or workforce housing. And it's not just market rate housing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you looking for, okay, there we go.
So a question on that one, and whether or not that question is necessarily relevant, because wouldn't, by virtue of our city ordinance, or what it's evolving into, wouldn't it be mandatory? Like, I guess would you like more workforce housing than is required by local ordinance? Would that be more apt? Because if people put, no, I don't want it, the reality is whatever comes out of here, if it's residential and over a certain number of units, which presumably this would be, it's not anybody's choice at that point. It's part of our ordinance.
From my knowledge, the City of Boynton Beach's workforce housing ordinance from 2007 had mandatory workforce housing included. Our revision of that in 2015 or 2016 or 17, no, I think it's 17 or 18, removed the mandatory nature of it. And because of the new legislative preemption, we cannot make workforce housing or subsidized housing a mandatory within the City of Boynton Beach. But I'll have to ask the city staff to clarify if there's mandatory.
It is not mandatory.
Say it again, Michael.
It is not mandatory. The only I guess additional workforce or any kind of workforce you would get is if they went for the density bonus. There is a formula to add a certain percentage of the units as workforce or affordable, but that would fall under the formula for the density bonus. So I think your statement of do you want more workforce than the density bonus would provide would be, an accurate statement. But if the board decided they wanted the whole project to be developed as a workforce housing project, that would be something that you would want to particularly specify, in an RFP or in a question to the public. And I would strongly recommend, I say strongly, I just would recommend not putting government subsidized housing, because I think that is a term that, isn't workforce, or it kind of takes the question a different direction than providing workforce or affordable housing. I don't think you need to include that.
No, I understand it, but that's exactly what workforce housing is that we're.
Well, you don't know that.
We're subsidizing the density and the height requirements for that zoning, whether it's for funding or whatever. Workforce housing, according to our own, subsidizes the ability for the developer not to have to get more land. And so I'm happy to change it, as government subsidized does have a negative connotation as to Section 8, which it shouldn't. So I'd like to say, would you like to see, what is it? Multiple pricing below, it's like almost, there's no way to get around below market value.
Well, you can say income variety, variety
mixed
of
income,
mixed incomes.
Yeah. Would you like to see a mixed income component of future project? And we're beating around the bush, but if that's what the board is comfortable with, I'm okay with that. Yes, Board Member Katz.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page. I think everyone's on the same page that some people who take this survey might look at this and say, I don't want, and we had, kind of an example of a comment like that a number of months ago, where it was like, we don't want those kind of people, where people think that workforce or affordable means like, poor people that are going to wreck the place, which is just not the case. So I don't have the words for it, but I think I agree with what everyone's saying, which is we want to ask the question, but we don't want to write it in a way that people just think, oh, I don't want any poor people, as if that's what workforce housing is, which it isn't. So
yes, sir. We want to discourage NIMBYism if we can, and I think that helps. So I appreciate your consideration.
So I think with mixed income, we're not necessarily defining it.
That's good.
But it's in that aspect where we have different price points for people who are living on the penthouse versus people living on the bottom floors.
There's something akin to, would you like to see housing options that cater to a variety of income levels. I don't know, again,
That sounds perfect to me.
There's examples of that throughout the country, but that's good. Variety of income levels, that's fine. That's great.
You know, I do want us to keep in mind that this is a survey that's going out to people, and if I get surveys and it's very worded, chances are I'm not going to fill it out or send it back in. So I'm with what you're saying, but let us be careful not to become an encyclopedia here. That's a turnoff to people when you talk about filling out a survey, because most people don't want to do it anyway. So some of these things we can discuss later if we word it in such a manner that leaves that open. I'm not sure I'm making any sense to you, but we've got to be careful, because from what I've been hearing, some of the stuff you don't want to put into a survey.
So the aspect of question 4 is that instead of having the length of workforce housing, it would state, would you like to see a variety of income housing available in a future project?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds that's okay.
And so we're not saying anything regarding affordable workforce, government subsidization. We're just saying that there will be different levels of income in this project. Question 5, I didn't have any comments. Question 6, would you like to see additional public parking spaces incorporated into a future project? And, you know, I add a new question, would you like paid parking for special events and high traffic times? I'm pretty much assuming this is a no from everybody, but it's a question that I'd like to ask, because the fact is that if we do have paid parking, we can have more additional public parking, because there's a way to fund that additional public parking. And the last was
Chair, what would be the point of asking that if you're anticipating that the response would be no?
well, if it's not nil, and let's say there's still 25, 30%, it's asking a question to get the answer. Let's say if it's a 0%, then we'll know nobody wants paid parking. However, if people understand that free parking exists on monopoly, but in the real world, we have to pay for parking lots, pay for parking garages, and that in order to have adequate parking, someone has to pay for it. So I'm under the impression that people do understand that if they want additional parking, for example, you know, if we have a transit authority, we don't want people parking their cars there the entire day, where most transit authorities do pay for parking, not including our tri-rail. Like, you know, from my experience up in the Washington, D.C. area, you know, all the metro parking lots cost money. So,
And so how would you word the question again?
would you like paid parking for special events and high traffic times?
Okay.
And so if they vote no, then that's fine. And so there won't be additional parking for those special events and high traffic times. Board Member Katz.
I'm okay with the question as stated in number 6, just because I would anticipate that everyone will say no to paid parking, but like you said, and I subscribe to this, that if we want to continue to provide parking or maintain parking or increase parking, it will come at a hypothetical price in the future to be decided. And so that's a question like you said, I anticipate everyone saying no, because everybody would like for free. So rather than asking what type paid or not paid, if people want additional parking, we know that has to be paid for somehow, and then hash that out, you know, as a board or as a city at a later date.
You know, the aspect for me is the combination of adding that second question, where let's say 90% of the people want additional parking and only 10% of people want to pay for it. It kind of gives us the disconnect of the public, where us as the community leaders, elected leaders, have to make those decisions. In order for giving the public what they want, how do we end up doing that? So I'd like to add that additional question, which would give us a total of 8 questions.
Yeah, I mean, I can predict how it's going to go, but I won't object to it. That's fine. It's a survey, as long as it has the disclaimer that was mentioned at the beginning.
Right.
Of this.
So just because someone said yes to paid parking doesn't mean that we're going to have it, and just because someone said yes to additional parking or no to additional parking doesn't mean that we're not going to have it. And so I know that Mr. O'Hara wanted to speak on this item. I don't know if you're still there, but I'm going to unmute you to give you that opportunity to speak. It currently says you're self-muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding, so I'm assuming by the amendment of questions that this survey will be going out again.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last thing you stated.
I'm assuming that since these questions are now being amended, that this survey will be redistributed.
It hasn't been distributed yet.
Okay.
So,
just from a perspective, I just, as a member of the Downtown Business Coalition, speaking on behalf of some of our fellow members, or quite a few, if just as our input, I think the question regarding the hotel was very important from our perspective, because it's something really that Boynton has not addressed adequately. Because if we're going to look at Boynton Beach as a potential tourist attraction, the city has a lot to offer in terms of the marina, in terms of tourism as far as diving and fishing. People have no place to come and stay in Boynton Beach. They have to go down to Del Rey or possibly up to West Palm Beach. So the idea of a boutique hotel in this area, I think, is very compelling, because just not only the number of jobs that it would provide to area residents, but also a place for tourism to come, visit the local businesses, possibly long-term stays in some of the area properties. You have a chance to look around for possibly purchase of such properties. But right now, when people come to visit Boynton Beach, there's really no place to stay. So my only recommendation on this particular site for 115 boutique hotel, I think from speaking to some of our Downtown Business Coalition members, they're in agreement. I think we have a chance here to draw a vision of a very attractive downtown. And when I go to other similar downtown areas, for example, just down in Del Rey, they put up a new, I believe it's a Hyatt near the corner of intersection of Atlantic and Federal, which is a very attractive addition to downtown Del Rey. So people have the opportunity to come and walk the downtown area. And I think,
Mr. O'Hara, sorry for interrupting you. We do have that as part of our question. It's the number 3 question. Would you like to see a hotel incorporated into a future project? We understand exactly how you feel that, we have the last, hotel east of 95 in the city of Boynton Beach is now the Inn at Boynton Beach. That used to be a Holiday Inn. And so, for me, it is something that it provides economic development, and I would be providing or in favor of providing TIF funding for a hotel to come to the CRA district.
Yes, I think we'd be in agreement that just the benefits that it provides in terms of the tourists, the access to the marina, to the fishing, to the diving, to the local restaurants, to the walking distance of the entire downtown business would be a tremendous impact in this area, and I think would add to the overall design, the vision that we have of a beautiful downtown Boynton Beach. I mean, I think we certainly have, while I understand the argument for luxury homes and things of that nature, possibly even maybe workforce housing, we really need to think about a long-term vision for the city. And I think the hotel provides a very, very unique way to get that. And it would impact not only jobs, but the appearance and the aesthetic the aesthetic appearance of downtown, the CRA area, and also a place to really strengthen our tourism industry and to give people a place to stay when they want to go diving in Boynton Beach, or they want to go fishing, or they want to visit our restaurants. They don't have to stay either at, possibly down in Delray, because they go down to Delray, they might stay in Delray. We want them to patron our businesses. So I think that's a very, very good idea for the hotel. And out of all the things mentioned, on this particular site, particularly 115, I think the hotel is a very strong argument. That was based on my input from just on behalf of my other DVC members.
And Mr. Har, I really appreciate you waiting all this time to give us your opinion, and we are definitely noted of it. It is our third question for our survey, and so we look forward to you helping to promote this within the business leaders and the community as a whole, so that we hear the strong voice of the community to get that hotel downtown. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that very much. And we will do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Katz, I saw your hand raised.
Yeah, and I'd probably be smarter to keep my mouth shut, but I might as well just state it for those who are looking for a hotel. It has been proposed and envisioned for at least a decade to build one like 20 yards away on the corner of Federal and Ocean. So just so people know whether there's a hotel on this particular site or not, there have been and there maintain plans to build a hotel in this area. Just to put my personal position on the record, I think the corner of Federal and Ocean adjacent to the marina is a lot more palatable location for a hotel than on the railroad tracks. So, I do believe a hotel will be here. I just don't know which exact location.
Yeah. And so going back to the survey question, Michael, do you have the edits from the board based on per question? And did you need any clarification?
Yes, thank you so much, Board Chair. I'm pretty comfortable with everything except for question 1, and then specifically the boxes for green space, open space. I don't know if a person that was looking at that as a box to check, because we're giving them a lot of boxes there on what they'd like to see there, might not think that the whole site would end up being a green space or an open space instead of incorporated in the project, which some of it's required by code, of course, and some of it could be asked for by the CRA. That's my comment to those two. And then Transit Authority, we also have question number 7, which I think addresses that box. So if you correct me if I'm wrong there, and if we would eliminate it.
I think you're absolutely correct. And so based upon my comments, I think what we'd like to do is, just expand on the commercial and residential component.
Okay.
To say, office, retail, apartments, and condominiums.
Okay.
Where we're going to have the public understand the difference that, each of those 2 factors of office or retail are different commercial aspects. And so rather than saying yes or no to the future redevelopment, but, it's something that, if somebody says, hey, retail is not an industry anymore because of online, we want to see more office. And people say, hey, COVID, people are working from home. We don't, but I still need a place to shop that I like to go to, and like restaurants. So I think it gives a good variety to the people taking it. And so I'll request that the board states that we modify the question to state, what uses would you like to see in the future development? Office, and then you have basically the 2, or would you like to see Yeah, would you like to see a future project incorporate office, retail, residential, or rental apartments, condominiums? And that way you have them 4 boxes to check instead of yes for commercial and residential as a whole.
Okay, very good.
And I got a head
And we're
nod.
incorporating the grocery store and the corporate headquarters into number 2, correct?
Is that unless I hear differently from the board? I believe that is correct.
Yeah, there's only so much space, so.
Yeah. Okay.
And then
Okay.
as for question 4, we modified that.
Yes, sir.
And then we wanted to add a new question between 6 and 7 for paid parking for special events and high traffic times.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay.
And
thank you.
Don't see anyone from the public with a hand raised.
Excuse me, Board Chair Grant, this is Alan.
Yes.
I'm looking at the attendees list and I do see 2 individuals, each with their hands raised. There's a Bradley Miller and a Michael Weiner. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those names correctly, but now there's a 3rd hand up as well.
Yep, we heard from John, so I'm going to go first to Bradley Miller. Thank you. Mr. Miller, you're currently self-muted.
Hello, board. This is Bradley Miller with Urban Design Studio, but really speaking on my own behalf here this evening. A couple of comments that I wanted to make for the question number 1, to point out that the zoning for this property is already slated for a mixed-use development through the CRA recommendation plan. So that may be a little confusing to people of whether they're picking an actual use where your code already requires that it be a mix of uses. And that the other comment I wanted to make in regard to the parking, and actually I witnessed it in Delray, having my office there in the early days when it was growing, that it was attractive to come to Delray, and you didn't have the burden of having to park and pay for that parking initially. As parking progresses over time, I've seen it in planning conferences, whereas a community and a downtown in this situation grows, then the parking demand becomes stronger, and you're able to implement pricing of the parking as you progress with the development. So you don't want to discourage people from coming, especially initially as the downtown's redeveloping and growing, because they had the philosophy of, I've got to go in there and I've got to go downtown and go to dinner and pay for my parking. You need to attract the people first, and I think the parking comes and the payment for parking comes as the area develops out. Just wanted to make those points. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradley. And I'm glad you're part of this. Would you want also a question incorporating the adjacent property owners into the project? No. Okay. And I'm looking for Michael Weiner. Mike, you're currently self-muted, Michael.
There, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yep, we hear you good. Well,
all right. I just wanted to make one point. I've been lucky enough to have a career that's lasted many decades. I remember at the beginning, everybody wanted a Borders bookstore for their downtown as the centerpiece. And with COVID, I just want to be careful that we realize that buildings are meant to last decades, and that there has to be a sense of place. And great places are measured in how they regenerate themselves in light of the circumstances around them. So let's just be careful enough that we look far enough over the horizon. Enough said. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. All right. And Joan, I did give you an opportunity to speak, so I'll ask the board if we want to give him a second opportunity. Mr. O'Hara.
I think everyone's had their chance, to be honest.
Thank you. But you know, that additional aspect of the 115 project, do we want to have that question of including the adjacent property owners, or do we want it as just for the CRA property? Yes, Board Member Katz.
I would say I don't know if it's necessary to ask if we have an opportunity to acquire them. I think that, you know, if the price is right and the deal is right, that we would. I can't imagine anybody would say no unless they thought that by acquire we meant like we were going to take or shut down businesses. That would be my concern. If we asked that, people might speculate or people might misuse that question to say, look at what they're doing. They're going to take over these businesses. I don't want people to be able to weaponize a question like that, which I fear.
Okay. So, yeah, I understand the perception that if we're trying to expand it, they may feel that we're taking over, you know, the gas station on the corner. So I'll not, we don't have to include that question. And so we will have the, and there's the last question. Are you a resident of Boynton? Are you a resident or business owner in Boynton Beach? I believe that is one you didn't give us online.
That was part of the initial. We just wanted to see that who was responding, if that was in the interest of the board.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we'll have
Let us stay in.
Yep.
Chair.
Yes.
Is this? Are there any other questions about whoever fills out the survey that's included? Are we asking for their contact information? Is there anything else besides are you a resident? Which I completely agree with. It's important to have. But is the intention to collect any additional information outside of this set about the applicant or the whoever fills out the survey?
So I think it's a good question, Michael. Are we going to have this as an online survey through a platform like SurveyMonkey, or are we going to have this as kind of like paper and people have to send emails in?
Well, we have a limited time, right? If we're trying to get this back by March. So our intent was to submit it in an email as a fillable PDF. So you could check a box, you know, and email it back. It'd be available online. We would email it to all of our existing email lists, which has, you know, several thousand people. We would also use SurveyMonkey. We would use the city contacts, all of the businesses that we have, which is Mercedes mentioned, there's over 240. I think that we've gathered a lot of data from our surveys from Pirate Fest and other events. This is getting long, I think, as Board Member Hay mentioned. I'm just concerned that the longer it gets and the more information we ask for, the less likely we get a response. So it's up to you. I'm happy to add some other demographic information, but I was hoping that either a resident or a business owner was the group you were soliciting information from.
Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair.
If I may make a final comment, you know, so the reason why I asked that is every time I see one of those change.org or some website petition, I mean, I ask the same question. In order for me to give this weight, I need to know if these people are real and where they're actually living from. And so if the question is just, are you a resident or a business owner, how do we know that somebody's not doing this 20 times, 50 times, right? And how do we know they actually are in the city? And so I agree that I don't want to make this too long or too complicated, but without those assurances, I don't know how much weight I can give this, because anybody can just sit there on their computer and keep clicking. And so that's just my concern.
We could put, under resident or business owner, you just provide your address. I mean, that way you don't have multiple addresses coming in. I mean, that would be one simple way without having to reveal too much about the person. You wouldn't have 6 from the same address,
if someone's doing that, it's easy for them to put multiple different addresses. There's to relay for Vice Chair's comments, using a Survey Monkey, they limit it per IP address. So it kind of prevents, two people from the same household or same computer from each filling out the survey. However, we are have that opportunity, and I think that's the best way to move forward, especially if we're trying to use email as the way to give this out to the public. And that, if someone is unable to use the internet, we can always have, paper at City Hall and for them to fill it out. And that way we know it's an actual person rather than someone just doing this at a different organization. But, from my work with the Survey Monkey in the past, it goes by per IP address, if that's enough assurance from you.
Yes, Mayor, and thank you for that suggestion. I just want to make sure that whatever data that we collect, that I can give it credence.
All right. Okay, so I do believe, Tara, we need a motion to approve the survey as amended.
Yes.
All right.
So move.
I'll move.
All right, so I have a motion by Board Member Hay, followed by Board Member Katz. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 15F, consideration of the third amendment to fund the Increasing the Quality of Life program of Habitat for Humanity International. Do I have a motion to approve? Yes. All right. We have a motion to approve the third amendment. Does the board need clarification on what the third amendment will do? Or may I have a second?
Second.
Yeah. Yes, I'd like to hear that.
Thank you, Board Member Romulus. Do we have a presentation?
Yes, Board Chair and board members, this is Tweesha. For the record, I'll be very brief. Habitat for Humanity received some grant money for the development of affordable housing. One last unit is being completed. I just got word today that they received their CO from the city. The board previously granted an extension till January 31st for them to complete this, and till February 15th for them to submit their report for reimbursement. They just need additional time to be able to submit the paperwork, because as part of the grant closeout, they have to do a financial review statement to, basically account for all the grant money that is being given to the CRA and making sure that it is being spent where it needs to be spent. So that's the additional time that they need. They feel that they will be able to have everything submitted for the quarterly report on by March 31st. So they've achieved their CO ahead of what they had anticipated. They just want the additional time for paperwork.
And I'm okay with that. We did require a lot of paperwork, and we appreciate Habitat for what they do for our community here in the CRA district.
If the board would choose, also at your convenience, there has been update. I went out and took pictures. The last unit on Northwest 6th Avenue is just absolutely great and stunning. So that is in the attachment number. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the one. Yes. So, oh, I'm sorry, attachment number 2. So everything is completed in there and they received their CO today.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board?
Yeah.
We didn't have a second, Chair. I'll second.
Thank you.
Yep.
Seeing no further comments, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Chair.
Yes.
I just wanted to add, as an aside, something that caught my attention. We mentioned that there was a lot of paperwork that we required. I think just moving forward, the best thing we can do to help alleviate government red tape is to try to decrease the amount of paperwork that there needs to be done. If we can find ways to streamline things, if we can find ways to just make processes easier, that's always what I'm in favor of. So that's what I'd like to see staff move in that direction more of. We're trying to do it more on the city side, and I'd like to request that the CRA try to always do the same.
Yes, Board Member Romulus, we have understood that this program is no longer in effect. The next program that we have currently going on is the Affordable Housing Grant Program, and that paperwork is a lot less than what we have here. So this is for the nonprofit organization grant that was implemented about 3 years ago. So we heard you loud and clear.
Thank you. All right, our next item is consideration of a loan release for the Small Business Disaster Relief Forgivable Loan to Beach Tennis LLC.
Good evening, Board. Oh, sorry.
Yes, sad news. I remember when he did his grand opening, it was very exciting for that old building to be used. So can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a
Motion
second?
to approve.
I got a first by Board Member Katz, a second by Board Member Hay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Chair.
Yes.
I did try to speak, but you didn't hear me. I was just saying I did want to hear what Bonnie had to say.
Okay. Bonnie?
Oh, good evening, Board. Bonnie Nicklin, Grants and Project Manager. I was just preparing to introduce the item, but it was just really sad for us to hear. I work very closely with Mr. Ingalls, and he just was a great guy. So I'm really sad to learn about this, but I know that he'll appreciate the loan release and his family. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to consideration of eligibility requirements for the Economic Development Grant Programs for fiscal year 2020-2021. This is in regards to the rent reimbursement for takeout restaurants. The fact that so many restaurants in this past year have become takeout only. I feel like this is something that we would want to help encourage in our city, and that the requirement that they are brick and mortar locations and not in a commercial kitchen or out of a house or a food truck in the CRA, that they be given tier 2 status for the rental reimbursement. Yes, we have a comment from the public.
Tim Collins from the Fish Depot Bar and Grill. I'm not clear on whether we're eligible for this or not, but our kitchen is actually in a food trailer, but it's part of a brick and mortar business. Where our kitchen is, as part of our business, would that preclude us from being eligible?
So for the rental reimbursement, you would have to expand your location by 50% or more for that. However, we do offer exterior and interior build outs for restaurants that you would qualify for.
No, I was regarding just what you just talked about this for the takeout stuff, the takeout grant, rent reimbursement for takeout. That's what we're
Basically,
discussing, correct?
so basically, if you try to open up a new business
Okay.
just as takeout, that's different than the Fish Depot Bar and Grill.
I wasn't sure. That's what I wasn't clear on because
Yeah.
I heard you read it. I didn't know if it was for
No,
existing
this
businesses
is
as well.
no, this is for
Okay.
new businesses that are
Gotcha.
doing takeout restaurants that have opened up in the past 12 months. And so, if I could get a motion to amend economic development grants.
So move.
Thank you. And in addition, you know, I would like it to be, what is it? Michael, what is the current, I guess, the rolling deadline? Is it 6 months, 9 months, 12 months from receiving their business tax receipt?
Bonnie, would you like to answer that? I believe we've extended that once before.
Sure. Businesses are eligible to apply for rent for up to 1 year after they receive their business tax receipt from the city of Boynton Beach.
Perfect, that's right.
Right, it was 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
So we have a motion and a second, I believe, to allow for takeout restaurants as a tier 2 rental reimbursement. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Consideration of First Amendment to the Phase 2 interlocal agreement for funding portions of the Town Square project is currently tabled. After speaking with Michael, he stated that we still need clarification from the city where they went from their anticipated funding request to their current funding request and the difference of the $12.5 million, and requested that to be removed from the table and off the agenda until the city can respond appropriately.
Thank you.
So may I have a motion to remove from the table?
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And then Tara, do we just not have a motion for this? Or?
Yeah, I think it can just pass with being taken off the table and go back to staff to bring it back at the appropriate time.
Yeah, because it doesn't change the interlocal agreement between the city and
Correct.
the CRA.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Tara.
All right. And so moving on to the new added business of assisting the Fish Depot market, find a
Sure.
location. Yes.
May I just couch this in a little bit of statutory requirements for the board?
Yes.
By statute, we would need at least 30 days to notice a lease, which is considered disposal of property. It's a form of disposal of property, and there's a requirement that be published 30 days in a newspaper. So I just wanted to frame that we would be unable to enter into or authorize entering into any kind of agreement. That would need to be published and brought back to you at the appropriate meeting. Doesn't stop you from discussing it, but I did want to just make you aware of that legal constraint and your ability to move forward tonight.
So the fun aspect of it is that we basically at the next meeting can approve or not approve the rent, the passing of the rental agreement with the current property owner. Is that correct?
Well, there's a wrinkle here. First, we don't own the property yet.
Right.
What would need to happen is we have to publish for 30 days, and I'm not sure the date of our next meeting, so that's my invitation. In a newspaper of general circulation.
The way around this is that if it comes with the property of a rental agreement from the property owner, is that something that we have to list from 30 days because it already came with the property?
If you, well, Mike would have to get into whatever the agreement currently provides, but no, the agreement, if he entered into an agreement and we took subject to that agreement, then it would not be the same as if it was after.
Except that in our current agreement with the purchase and sale, we've required that the property be delivered vacant.
Correct. And so the fun aspect is this last minute workaround where we would have to agree to a sixth amendment, I guess, to the contract, because that's what number we're up to now, to allow the Fish Depot Market Bar and Grill to have
It's the fish market.
fish,
Yeah.
the fish market, sorry, the fish market to have what their offer is to us included with the purchase and sale of the property. So I know we said we're willing to do it. The issue then becomes, how are you going to get the current property owner able to give you a rental agreement that we agree to tonight, and that you would also have to deal with, the zoning and the business tax receipt of a new location. So Tara will tell you that this is almost nearly impossible. But as we heard from the board, we want to work with you. We want to help you out. And so this is, what is the current deadline for the Sixth Amendment or the Fifth Amendment? Teresa, I guess, if you're still on. I don't think she is. All right.
Well, at our legal meeting today, everything is in place, and he's finishing up the last couple of things that Attorney Ken Dodge, CRA counsel, commented today that he believes that another amendment won't be necessary, and things are lining up for closing.
Okay. So, so the current deadline is February 26, 2021. And, the aspect that we have as the CRA board is that what are we willing to accept, and for to basically create a rental agreement within the next 15 days. And and that it is pre-approved with this board tonight for a certain extended period of time. So I'd like to hear your offer before we make any sort of judgments, but I'll give you the 3 minutes to make the offer that we can't refuse.
Right. Well, and just with regards to a couple things, we open.
Microphone on?
Yes, the microphone's on. It's Tim Collins from the Fish Market, Fish Depot Seafood Market. With regards to the near impossible, I opened the bar and grill in 22 days. You can ask most people in the restaurant business, and they say that that's not possible. Okay, so I'm more than comfortable working in the world of not possible. I can get things done. If I have to work 24 hours a day, I'll get it done. The other side of it is, I also understand that you're purchasing this property with the thought in mind of a developer putting up a big development. So we could arrange a lease and a series of 1-year renewables, or, the understanding that if there's a break ground that we have maybe, so 3 months, 6 months to get out or to vacate, as long as, give us a little bit of notice to be able to move again. I have it that it probably will be, a couple, 3 years at the minimum before that somebody's in there, unless you already have a project approved there. We'd stay there all the way until the end that it's time to go for you to be able to break ground and build a new property. The property is an older building. It's not improved at this point. While I was here, I had to make up some numbers, so I reached out to a couple of my commercial friends. They said that an unimproved older building goes anywhere to $8 to $10 a square foot. If it's improved, it's up to $15 a square foot. That puts if I went at the higher end of 10 on unimproved and 15 at the improved older building, that puts it from just over 1,700 up to as high as 2,500. If we could agree something in the middle there, I'm okay with that. I would be more than okay with that. I'd even go to the top end of the $2,500 a month. And we could put the terms as however it works out best for the city and the CRA, not to interfere with future development. And there's an empty lot in between, and we'd love to turn that into some green space with some grass or whatever. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, and yeah.
Yeah, the end of that was that there's a space in between the two buildings with the white fence in front of it. We'd love to have some green space in there as well, and to add more green space, to Boynton Beach Boulevard.
Okay. And so from what you just told us, you're looking for basically the CRA to pre-approve a 1-year lease
It's renewable.
that is renewable for a period of, let's say, 3 years.
Okay.
With a 90-day notice of vacancy, without cause.
Okay.
At, as you stated, $2,500 a month rent.
Okay.
And, so basically it'd be from March 1st, 2021 to February 28th, 2022, which would give the CRA an extra $30,000 in rent.
Annually, yeah, a little over, almost 31,000.
So plus, and so for me, we said we'd be doing whatever we can, and this is kind of that aspect. If we give legal the option to accept the exchange with this type of lease, it might not be with you. Let's just say that someone else could probably try to undercut you with the different, because we can't guarantee it's with you. But I don't think there's many people that are trying to seek this type of term.
Mayor.
Yeah, but that's kind of where I'm at. And so I'll let Board Member Katz and the rest of the board speak. And we'll see if we can we'll have our attorney speak at the end and see if we can't get a motion.
Thank you, Chair. So if for anybody who's actually watching this right now, if you think back to the initial vote with regards to the property that you guys were looking for, I kind of took a beating and lost that one and trying to help you out on that. With that being said, though, on this, I don't personally feel comfortable asking staff to try to iron out a complex agreement that may or may not go to you, that could impede future development. I feel like we're trying to force something, and I understand your perspective on that, obviously, as a business owner, but I don't want to put them in a position to have to do something like this under such expedited conditions where a mistake could be made through no one's fault, but because of the time that we're giving them. And then, there's consequences that we can't fathom right now because we're being asked to do a lot in a tight time frame that no one would voluntarily agree to do it under these time constraints. So I can't support it at this time. I just don't want to do something to try to do something because that's how mistakes get made.
So before you go, we're going to let the rest of the board speak.
All right.
Based upon the offer that was made. And so, Vice Chair or Board Member Hay, do you have any comments?
I think I agree with Board Member Katz. I do feel somewhat uncomfortable, and I'm not sure why, but I feel pressured, and like you said, this is when you make mistakes. So I at this stage I couldn't support it.
All right. And Vice Chair.
Chair, I'd like to hear from legal. As I stated before, I want to help out Mr. Collins stay in the city, but as you stated yourself, I'm not sure how exactly this solves his problems, as it's not even guaranteed, on top of all the other points that have already been made. And so I'd like to know what is even legally possible, and does it actually fix the situation?
So Tara, the statement that I said is that if the board votes on a motion to accept the property with the tenant for the amount of no less than $2,500 for a term of 1 year with a 90-day notice of removal, you're shaking your head. We can't do that.
You can do that. I rarely interject, but I wouldn't recommend that, and this is the reason. all we have control over in our current agreement is whether or not the property that we are purchasing is vacant. We don't have control over the terms of the lease. And if we try to get approval of terms of the lease, that would require it to come back in March. So there's very few ways for you to review a lease in the time frame that you're asking for. So you would be subjecting yourself to a lease that we have no control of, that could have terms that we don't agree with. And I wouldn't recommend doing that. Again, I understand and empathize, and I hate to be the stick in the mud, so to speak, but it is our place in this transaction at this point is only to waive our current requirement that the property be vacant. And we can do that, but then there's a lot of ifs that require this gentleman negotiating with the existing owner. Of course, we could assist. But we can't bring back a lease for you, and there are a lot of other terms besides the one that we've discussed.
So yeah, no, it's the aspect of government going a little bit beyond and reaching out, because as Tara mentioned, we can void tonight the ability that the property is vacant. However, we cannot void what terms we're willing to accept as a lease that the new tenant that we accept come in. And so it's kind of the position where if the property owner came back to us with a meeting tonight that says, hey, do you want to accept this terms of the lease? That's something that we could do. However, accepting a generalization of lease terms is not legally sound, according to our attorney. And so that's kind of the situation that we're in. Hopefully in the month of March, we are able to work with you, but then it's still 30 days of disposing of the property, even for rental. Is that correct, Tara?
We can notice it for disposition as soon as we have it. But yes, it's 30 days to dispose of and to publish notice to lease.
Okay, so that's the situation that you're in with that sort of aspect. I do believe our economic development grants and rent reimbursements are available for any other property in the CRA. And yeah, I do believe the fish market would be able to do this. It's just, I don't know of.
There's a couple of things I'd like to address.
Yes.
First of all, the last thing I want to do is impede on the development of that piece of property. And we've been willing to accept any language that you needed to give us notice to get out so that could go forward. That's not a problem. Mo, you address that.
No, that's not the issue. The
I got you. Here,
the issue is the lease terms.
I understand that. And then, so as the chair of this committee and being an attorney as well, could there be a situation where we could create a lease that you could be reviewed, that you could work together with an attorney that I use, we could work out the lease terms as long as it's okay with the landlord.
So all that is subject to 3 people on this board agreeing to that. As chair, he said he doesn't have the authority to unilaterally.
I understand that the whole board would have to agree to it.
But I'll just to restate my position, there's no scenario where I feel comfortable enough tonight to sign a sight unseen lease agreement with a property owner that we are about to acquire. So that's just my final position to restate.
And yeah, Michael.
Co-chair.
Yes, board member Hay.
Let me hear from Executive Director Mike Simon on this. He's been trying to say something. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
I respect the board's attempt to assist this business owner, and I understand that he's been aware of his lease coming up, perhaps, and the sale of the existing property that he's in. But I don't believe that there would be any way around the minutes and the video of this meeting and the discussion of how to circumvent the disposal of this property under statutory requirements would be, in my opinion, I would be very uncomfortable that this could be completely misconstrued. I'm not an attorney, but I can't imagine that someone who wanted to make issue of the fact that you're negotiating to circumvent the disposal process by suggesting that this individual go to a seller that we are in contract with and sign a lease, and then come back to us already as the tenant. I don't know how they could not see that as being incorrectly done. Again, with all due respect to everyone involved, this seems like a bad idea.
And so,
thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't execute anything without your approval. I wouldn't even.
You can't approve a lease that you're entering into with another individual.
so Tim, you remember how I said it was nearly impossible? The conversation that we had tonight made it impossible.
Okay.
So I want to thank you for coming here and speaking with us. Whatever, it's kind of
We're
like
happy to help any other way we can.
we're happy to help within the guidelines of the law.
All right. Got it.
All right. And thank
So
you.
The earliest we can have a conversation about this is during the 30-day period following February 26th.
So at our next CRA meeting, according to the fifth extension, we should have it in March, and that we can just put it up for disposal within 30 days, which will hopefully allow us to have that conversation in April. So it's March 9th.
I would submit a letter of interest.
13th. So yeah, we will have 30 days between the first meeting in our CRA meeting in March and our CRA meeting in April. And so April would be the first time for us to even discuss a lease contract to be approved in May.
So that would be the first time it'd be able to be discussed, and it's not possible it could be approved before May?
No, May 11th would probably be the earliest that some lease could be approved by this board, unless I'm mistaken, Tara. We'd have to have a special session sometime after April 13th, which is the 30 days from the notice of intent to lease. You're still muted.
I think that's a fair timeline for the process as it would need to unfold with this position. And I also think to the extent there's continued interest in the submission of a letter of intent with more specific business terms that could be discussed with you would also facilitate a quicker discussion.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
You stated that letter of intent, once we do receive the property of the rental terms that you would like to agree to.
Okay. Okay, I know. I thought you said you already had a letter of intent. I'm like, on that property. Okay.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time and effort, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, Jim.
And
Thank you, board. Thank you very much.
So as for the future agenda item that was stated, the tax incremental funding financing, if we can get some of the information regarding past projects, hopefully we can work with the city to get the cost of constructions, how much they needed to spend in the building permits, and come back to us with examples of Las Ventanas that was sold and is now One Boynton, Seabourn Cove. And are you aware of any other?
I guess just any of the more memorable or most significant TIF agreements that that might have been signed in the past.
So yeah, I think it's the multi-million-dollar TIF agreements within you want to say the past 10 years?
Yeah, because I imagine that the truly big ones, there's probably only a handful over the past decade.
I'd like to get the Casa Costa numbers in it as well. So anything before, from Casa Costa offer after in the millions of dollars of TIF financing and funding. I guess the points of information is that the time frame for the TIF, the amount that was given, the construction cost, and the sale price.
And what the conditions in which they were supposed to, their reciprocation, what their incentive got
And
to
I
be.
guess an executive summary of their requirements. For example, Costa Costa had to have, I believe, two number of tenants in their commercial locations to receive the TIF.
Does that make sense, Mike?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. We've got the item. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And no, I'm excited regarding the funding balance to help with the lighting of Ocean Avenue and other areas within our CRA district that need assistance.
Yes, sir.
All right. If seeing no further comments, Alan, I'll ask for the closing statement.
Thank you, Board Chair Grant. As a reminder, a recorded version of this session will be posted to the CRA's YouTube channel. Links to that channel are available on the CRA's website at boyntonbeachcra.com. This concludes today's meeting. On behalf of Board Chair Stephen Grant, all of our board members, the CRA Director, and CRA staff, thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Be safe and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, board.
All right.
Meeting
Good night.
adjourned.